Hey guys, Magnus Robert here, bringing you another Dead Walking Dead character video. This episode is going to be on Rosita Espinosa, and yes, it's a long ass video. This is why I procrastinated this long, because I knew it would take me ages to make. Now, the reason it is this long is because A, in my more recent episodes I've decided to be a lot more detailed with my character profiles, and B, Rosita is technically the biggest character to die in terms of episode count and scene count. Yes, she's bigger than Glenn and Carl. So let's get into it. Rosita is of course female. She's played by Cristina Serretos. She is mid-20s in Season 4 and mid-30s in Season 11, and she first appeared in Inmates. She is the mother to Coco and the girlfriend to Abraham Ford and Gabriel Stokes. Before the outbreak, Rosita never really knew her dad and was raised by just her mother, who would move around a lot, going from job to job, giving Rosita a troubled childhood. Sadly, Rosita's mother died when she was a preteen. She also had a brother and a 6-year-old nephew. In terms of a job, we don't actually know what Rosita did, but we know that she has some military experience, so it's possible that she was a mechanic in the military, and I'm just basing that on her skill set. When the outbreak began, Rosita found numerous survivors. First was Johnny, who taught her about explosives. He was a survivalist, a prepper type. Then there was Marcus, who taught her about cars. He was a mechanic and a wannabe stunt driver. And she learned knot tying from a man named Chaser. That wasn't his real name though. She learned what she could from each of these men and then bounced once she could do their skill better than them. Eventually, she found a group consisting of several members: Josiah, Stephanie, Warren, Rex, Pam, Roger, Dirk, and Josephine, and she rolled with them. She learned medical skills from one of these group members. They were in Dallas one day fighting the dead before Abraham Ford came to the rescue. Abraham was impressed with Rosita, and he of course told her about the Cure mission. Rosita and her group joined forces with Abraham and Eugene, finding a purpose as they began their journey to Washington to cure the zombie virus. Rosita began a relationship with Abraham, it becoming a norm for her to stitch his hand wound that kept opening. She eventually fell in love with Abraham, knowing he wasn't just a fling, although she had to get used to Eugene watching them have sex. She once watched Rex eat 4 cans of spaghetti rings too. At some point though, Josiah, Stephanie, Warren, Rex, Pam, Roger, Dirk and Josephine all died, leaving just Rosita, Abraham and Eugene alive. They began to travel through Georgia in Abe's big ass truck. However, eventually they find 2 strangers in the road. In Season 4, Abraham drives his truck to see Tara dealing with Walkers whilst Glenn is passed out. They exit looking all cool and Rosita is wearing something very impractical. Tara calls them assholes and Abraham points out she has a mouth on her. What else you got though, Tara? Off screen they load Glenn and Tara and head on to their mission. Tara tells Rosita and the others what went down at the prison. Rosita stays in the truck as Abe deals with Walkers. They carry on, but at some point Glenn shouts to stop the truck. He leaves, and Rosita listens to Abraham try to talk reason into Glenn, but when Glenn decides to leave anyway, Abe follows and Rosita follows closely behind. Abe points out Maggie's probably dead and Glenn punches Rosita's man. Abe slams Glenn on the ground and Rosita runs over, trying to get the two away from each other, telling Abraham to stop. The two men keep fighting until they all notice zombies are coming, and Eugene is trying to kill them all. Rosita kills the walkers alongside everyone else, but the truck is shot in the process, rendering it useless. Abraham tries to repair it, and Rosita looks bored listening to his army story about a camel who had a C4 strapped to it. She finds and picks Glenn's picture of Maggie and asks if it's his. Glenn then leaves and Tara follows, handing their gun back to Rosita. Rosita sighs and decides to follow, saying to Abraham, "What else are we gonna do?" As she walks off, Abraham shouts they need to head to Washington to fix the damn world. Abe and Eugene follow soon after, and the group head out, beginning to walk and travel. After travelling, at some point, Tara takes a glance down Rosita's top. Rosita sleeps, and in the morning, she carries on walking with the group. She watches Glenn see the message from Maggie left on the Terminus sign, and witnesses him run off, eventually catching and following the breadcrumbs of where Maggie and her friends have been. Abraham stops them all, demanding they all rest, explaining how Eugene is important to keep alive. A zombie falls out of a tower and Abraham pushes Tara over, protecting Eugene. Rosita asks if she's okay and asks who's going to help carry her. Glenn wants to carry on, despite Tara's injury, and Rosita calls out Glenn for this, asking him to man up and stay for a bit. Glenn makes a deal with Abe, his riot gear, for them to carry on moving. Rosita says it's not fair on Tara. Abe says to her, "You're not her mama," and of course he accepts the deal. The group arrive at a tunnel where there is a fresh message from Maggie. Abraham refuses to take his group inside because it is full of walkers. And Abraham wishes to part ways with Glenn and Tara, offering some food. Rosita hugs Tara and Glenn and tells Glenn not to be an ass. They leave Tara and Glenn to it, eventually finding a ride, but there's a zombie inside. Abraham asks if Rosita has Eugene's back, and then he kills the walker. Abraham wants to air out the car, and Rosita says good, as she wants to check her bearings on where they are. Eugene grabs the map, wishing to navigate instead, but Rosita points out he's made mistakes before. Eugene pleads for it, and Rosita gives in, handing him the map and telling him they're going north. Rosita drives the car, making several lefts under Eugene's navigation, and picks up that this doesn't seem right. She asks Eugene if he's lost, but he claims he isn't. She points out there's little fuel and refuses Eugene's suggestion to roll up the windows. Suddenly he shouts to stop the van. She soon figures out he's driven to the other end of the tunnel and calls him out for his lies, asking what's wrong with him. Rosita points out he is the priority, but he says he started to live with himself after saving the world. Eugene wakes up Abraham accidentally. Abraham is told what's going on and asks why Rosita didn't stop, and she blames Eugene. The two bicker, and Eugene shouts at them when they see Sasha, Bob, and Maggie exit out of the other end of the tunnel. They meet the trio, and they head into the tunnel to go save Glenn and Tara. They find them in a sticky situation, and Rosita helps to shoot a bunch of the dead to save them, and watches Glenn and Maggie reunite. Rosita secures the end of the tunnel with the van, and then they set up a little camp inside. Abraham demands to go to Washington now, but Eugene suggests they first head to Terminus. Rosita points out it wouldn't hurt to check it out, and they could recruit some people there. In the morning, they arrive at Terminus, finding Mary, who offers them some food and shelter. But off-screen, all of them, including Rosita, are captured and put into train cars. A day or so later, Rosita meets Rick, Daryl, Michonne, and Carl, who are all added to the train car. Rick says that they're fucking with the wrong people. In Season 5, the group all plan and plot to escape Terminus. Rosita fashions a belt and her earrings into a weapon. They prepare to attack as Terminus residents approach, but the top hatch opens and Rosita is gassed along with everyone else. They hear an explosion and wonder what's going on after Rick and a bunch of the other men have been taken. Rosita asks what Eugene is doing as he tinkers with the door. Sasha wants to hear Eugene's cure, and Rosita defends him, saying he doesn't have to talk, but Eugene answers anyway. Rick suddenly swings open the door, releasing them all, and Rosita helps to fight to the fence, landing a kill with her new makeshift weapon. She reaches the fence first and kills another walker before climbing over it. In the woods, Rick digs up some guns and wants to take out the rest of the termites. Rosita speaks out, saying the place is on fire and full of walkers. She watches the group then reunite with Carol, and then Tyrese and Judith too. Rosita asks about the mission to Abraham, and he says we'll talk about it later. United as a group, they get back to walking some more. Rosita eats and walks and witnesses Michonne deal with a walker. Abe comments that they've waited long enough now, and Rosita says that's fair enough. In the morning, they all nearly shoot Daryl after he gets some squirrel. Soon, they hear some screaming, and they save Father Gabriel. Rosita is disgusted as she watches the man vomit. She listens in as Gabe talks and Rick interrogates him. They head to the church and they clear it. Rosita stays back there as the others go on a supply run and helps Eugene repair the church bus. At night, she eats, cheers at Abe's toast, and enjoys herself. After Bob goes missing, Rosita watches Sasha and Rick interrogate Father G, where he tells the tale of how he locked out his congregation. Eventually, Bob is found, without a leg, in the church. Sasha asks for meds, and Rosita says that there are pain pills. Abe expresses it's time to go to DC, and Rosita grabs her stuff ready to go. Rosita stands by Abe's side as Abe and Rick argue about it. She shouts at her partner when it appears things could get violent. Glenn then breaks it up, and Tara offers herself for the mission after everything is safe. Glenn and Maggie also volunteering themselves to convince Rosita, Abe, and Eugene to stay until the termites have been dealt with. Rick proposes a plan on taking out the termites to the group, and Rosita asks if they're all thinking straight, because it's a big play and very risky. The plan goes ahead and Rosita stays in the church protecting Eugene and some others. She hears all of Gareth's threat and raises her gun when they try to get into the office, but soon his men are killed and so is he. Rosita sees the massacred bodies and she presses F to pay respect to Bob in the morning and is ready to leave after Abe gives his parting words to Rick, and they head off on the church bus to Washington, D.C. In the bus, she checks Abe's hair, wanting to cut it, and he jokes saying he wants to be a shepherd and maybe he'll let her shave him down all over, dolphin smooth. She listens to Glenn and Eugene chat, and when Eugene says no scissors are coming near his mullet, she hears him loud and clear. Suddenly the bus loses control and crashes. Rosita is okay though, and they plan to clear the dead that have surrounded them. Rosita hops out and begins to kill walkers with her knife. After they're all dead, she sees the bus light a fire. Abraham demands they carry on regardless. Before they leave, she sees Eugene staring at a walker and asks him what he's doing. They head to a library and board it up. Rosita is handed some thread and she stitches up Abe's open hand wound. Later, Rosita and Abe have sex and she sees Eugene is watching them and points it out to Abe, but he convinces her to just let it be. In the morning, she bandages Abraham's hand again and suggests that they stay for a day because they got very lucky yesterday. They're all banged up and if they keep stopping because they're not starting at 100%. Abraham argues people die every day, that they're not in DC. She understands but wants them all to actually get there. Rosita changes her tune quickly though as she shoots down the idea of scavenging, just saying that they can scavenge as they go instead. Abraham points out a fire engine and she watches her lover rage at the vehicle not working before pointing out how he can get it started and what the problem is. Zombies disrupt their fire engine fun and Rosita helps to kill them before Eugene wipes them out with the water from the fire hose. Rosita is wet again and hears Abraham laugh saying they're rolling on. The truck breaks down, they smell some dead coming so they walk to see the herd is on its way. She calls for Abraham to retreat with them, but he wants to go through. He suggests using the hose, and Rosita points out the tank is empty, demanding that they can get through, but Rosita refuses, saying the others are right. The man then drags Eugene back, and Rosita begs him to stop, but he doesn't. In the scuffle, Rosita is pushed down to the ground. Eugene breaks it all off by saying that he's not a scientist, and that he lied. She says he is a scientist because of the skills that he has, but he says he just knows things. He lied to be kept safe and that DC is a safe bet. She points out that people died getting him here, and he reveals he also sabotaged the bus. Abe punches Eugene and Rosita guards the unconscious man from her boyfriend doing any more harm. Holding her gun and seeing his hand is bleeding once more, she checks on the bloody Eugene, trying to get him to wake up. Rosita reads by the fire truck. Eugene still hasn't woken up. She goes to Abraham with some water, telling him to drink. She berates him and he knocks the water away. She shouts, "Look at me!" and he rises to his feet in a threatening manner. But Maggie has a gun on him, protecting Rosita, so he goes back to his spot. Glenn points out they need water and Rosita says there is a creek and offers to go. They find some walkers pinned down and Tara makes jokes saying that they don't need to get up because there's nothing for them in Washington. And Rosita tells her that that is just not funny. Tara points out Eugene just used his one skill to keep him living, so she isn't mad, that skill being lying. At the creek, Rosita uses a makeshift water filter, commenting that Eugene taught her. She then talks about how her and Abraham first met, commenting that he was the first person who asked for her help since the outbreak started. Glenn spots fish and they kill those walkers from before, steal their clothes and construct a net from them, and as they do, she asks how Tara is. Using their constructed net, they catch some fish. She admits she knows how to clean them, and Glenn asks, "Are you in?" wherever we end up, and Rosita laughs saying that she's in. Tara then shows them what she found in her backpack. It's a bunch of fucking yo-yos, and they walk back with their catches, somewhat joyful now. They get the fire truck working again, and they travel back to the church, blocking some dead from leaving the church after they find that the church has been overrun with dead. They meet Michonne, Carl, and Gabe, and they travel in the truck to Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta to see Beth and the others. But when they arrive, they see Daryl holding Beth's dead body, and Rosita is in shock as Maggie breaks down. After leaving the city and burying Beth, Rosita stays behind as some others try to get Noah back to his home. She hears about Tyrese being bitten and amputated. Tyrese doesn't make it, and Rosita pays her respects at his funeral. They head off in a car that breaks down, causing them to sluggishly walk down the road. She watches Rick and some others deal with the dead from afar. They carry on down the road and find some cars, getting some booze. They rest in the woods and Rosita accepts that Abraham isn't making things better by drinking. Rosita warns things could get worse, and then some dogs come and Sasha kills them, giving them some grub. So Rosita eats some dog. They walk some more, finding some mysterious water that has been left by someone. She shouts as Eugene tries to drink it, but luckily Abraham knocks it away. Suddenly it rains and Rosita basks in it, making her wet the third time this season. Turns out the rain brings a storm, and they head to a barn for safety. She sleeps, but at night a tornado tries to get in, along with some walkers, and Rosita helps to push the door shut with the rest of the group. Good bonding moment that. After Sasha and Maggie find Aaron, he's brought in the barn and Rosita holds her gun ready as the man is questioned by Rick, and then informs them he's from a settlement and they have to audition for a place. Rick begins to look at the pictures of Alexandria as Aaron gives his spiel about how they can make each other stronger by joining. Rick knocks him out. Rick questions him some more, specifically how many people are out there, and reveals that he left the water. Aaron offers to drive them all to the community, and Rosita is asked by Rick to accompany the trip to search Aaron's vehicles. They walk and talk, but Rosita doesn't add to the convo. They reach the RV and car and get spooked by some walkers. Rosita helps Abe take them out. They both enter and clear the RV. They find some spaghetti rings and they talk about Rex and his love for them. Abraham asks if Rosita thought he was going to hurt her back at the fire truck, and she admits she knows that's not him. They drive their vehicles back to the barn and reconnect in the barn and listen to Michonne stand up to Rick to demand that they're going to go to this community. After mapping out their route, they prepare to leave at nightfall. She travels in the RV with the most of the group and finds and saves Eric after he fires his flare. After she listens to Aaron tell them that they can go in the morning with full directions, and in the morning they do so, heading to Alexandria. On the way, Rosita spots DC and points out to Abe, but not for too long, saying, "Keep your eyes on the road, champ." Abe then reassures that they can make it with the amount of fuel that they've got left, but then the RV breaks down. However, Glenn has a solution, and Rosita, eventually, with the others, arrives at Alexandria. Nicholas is shocked, but all these people have arrived, and Rosita gets spooked by a CGI possum along with the rest of the group. Rosita begrudgingly hands her weapon over with the others and off-screen is interviewed by Deanna and given a job as a medical assistant. That night, they all gather into one house, including Rosita, for safety. Deanna pops in and sees it, but she's cool with it. Rosita then sleeps. The next night, she's in the house again and sees Rick in his new uniform. On the third day of being Alexandria, Rosita and Abe show up at Deanna's party. Abraham is unsure about the ordeal, but Rosita points out they have beer, and he's sorted. She drinks, laughs, and enjoys the party. That night, her and Abe go to their own room and they have sex, making this the fourth time Rosita has got wet. No, okay, I'll stop. Off screen, she learns about Tara's injuries and Noah's death. A day or two later, Rosita visits Michonne, informing her Tara is stable, but Sasha isn't sleeping and she's outside the walls. The two women head into the woods and Rosita talks about seeing Sasha last. They hear something and get spooked, but it's nothing. Their hearing is shit. As they walk, Rosita accepts that things feel different now. After Eugene, she felt she lost something, but now they've found something. Michonne is upset about Noah, but Rosita tells Michonne not to give up on this place and herself. They find shot out photo frames and dead walkers. Following those tracks, they locate Sasha and find that she's killing some more walkers. Michonne joins in with Sasha's walker killing, and so does Rosita, but she only has a knife, not a gun. Sasha is angry and tells them to go. They can't help her. As Sasha storms off, Rosita follows. Rosita witnesses Rick and Pete's fight and helps up Jessie after she is knocked down, and then witnesses Rick going crazy with his little speech. After Michonne knocks Rick out, Rosita patches up Rick's face. Rosita watches over Tara with a sleeping Eugene as Abraham brings flowers. She purposely knocks something over to awake Eugene so Abraham and Eugene can have a talk. She listens as the two men make up. She then reads a book by Tara's bedside as she's still out cold, and that night Tara awakes and Rosita gives her a big old happy smile. In Season 6, Rosita is helping Tara into her bed when Nicholas and Glenn burst in. She helps get Nicky Boy on the bed and then watches as Glenn and Maggie are happy to see Tara alive. She then treats Nicholas. Eugene shows up too, and Tara mentions Noah, not knowing that he is dead. Rosita looks sad as he has to break it to her. Rosita attends Rick's meeting about the Mega Herd and the plan to direct it away, and is assigned to the Forest Watch duty. Rosita later helps to build a wall used to divert the walkers, and off-screen she begins teaching Jesse how to use a gun. When the wolves attack, Rosita spots Holly being attacked by a wolf and along with Aaron shoots that wolf dead. She then helps get Holly to the infirmary, shouting to Denise to set the operating table. Rosita sticks the IV, but can't assist Denise, having to go to defend the community. Rosita tells Eugene to shut up when he's rambling, telling him to stay here because he'll be safe. She and Aaron run out, flanking around a house, and they shoot dead 3 wolves. As her, Maggie, Spencer and Deanna check the status of the wall, Spencer asks Rosita if this is what it's like out there, and Rosita confirms. Spencer asks, how can you live knowing that? Rosita replies, you make sure you've got something worth dying for, and walks off. Rosita is present when Michonne informs Maggie that Glenn didn't make it back, and hugs her after breaking the news. Then she opens the gate to let Rick in and sees half of the Mega Herd arrive at the gates of Alexandria. She listens to Rick's speech to the Alexandrians and comments Abe, Glenn and the others will return. At night, Rosita is on guard duty and sobs to herself. Likely she's dealing with the possibility that Abraham could be dead. Spencer joins her, saying he's replacing Carol on guard duty. They both overlook the herd outside the walls. Rosita tells him he did a good thing taking out the wolf truck driver, as they might all be dead if it wasn't for Spencer. He downplays his role, but Rosita says it doesn't matter, just keep doing what you're doing, Spencer. Rosita gives some machete-wielding lessons to Eugene and the Alexandrians, telling them exactly how to use it as a weapon. She scoffs at Eugene not listening, spooks him, and then gives him a talking to, asking him why he's so scared. He admits he's scared of dying, and Rosita tells him that dying is simple. When the people around you die, that's the hard part, and the hard part is living and knowing that you could have done more to save your friends. Eugene is upset now and doesn't want to practice with a meanie like Rosita. Eugene walks off and Rosita continues her lesson without him. Later, Rosita chats with Tara and Eugene, looking like she is giving him a private machete lesson now, and she notices the balloons flying up in the air. Then she sees the tower collapse and knock down the wall. Rosita and Tara rush to save Tobin. I guess they get him to safety because a few moments later she saves Eugene from walkers. The 3 of them rush into a nearby garage and slam the door shut in the nick of time. They sit and wait inside there, Rosita asking if Tara thinks this is it for Alexandria. Tara says no, there's going to be a price for it, but it's worth fighting for. Rosita is like, we've paid the price already. She also admits that she feels that Abe is dead. Tara says he's not dead because she didn't see it, and this place isn't over. Tara then asks what they can do to get out of this, and Rosita plans to shoot the lock off the garage door. But Eugene says he can lockpick it. It's in his skill set. They move through the house and they soon come across Owen and Denise, the former taking the latter hostage via knife point. Rosita holds her gun up but lowers it and slides it over when demanded to by Owen. Rosita then watches Owen exit into the herd-filled streets with Denise as a hostage. Tara wants to go out there after her, but Rosita shuts it down, saying they'll die if they do so. She points out that Owen needs Denise as he is sick and she might just be okay. First, they need to make sure that Carol and Morgan are good. Carol awakes and asks Rosita for her gun as she wants to do a sweep of the brownstone. Morgan wakes up too and Rosita helps him up. Morgan and Carol figure out that Owen took Denise and they wait until the night. Eugene comments to Rosita they're going to fight their way out and Rosita agrees but tells Eugene that he won't be. Eugene tries to argue but Rosita shuts him down. Carol comes to inform them that Rick is making a stand with some others. Rosita agrees to go out there and so does Eugene. Rosita tells Eugene he doesn't have to, but he claims he does as no one gets to clock out today. Rosita rushes out and begins to attack the dead, joining the others in the fight for Alexandria. Together with the rest of Alexandria, Rosita helps to kill the herd. The morning after, Rosita stands outside the infirmary, tired from all the fighting. Some point after this, Rosita agreed with Carol not to tell Rick about Morgan keeping Owen alive. Some months later, Rosita off-screen makes Abraham a necklace using a broken tail light. She wakes up next to him, post-sex, snapping him out of a daydream. They lay in bed and talk about Eugene learning patrol, and in return, he's teaching Rosita chemistry. Abraham laughs, saying you can't teach chemistry, and kisses. Rosita. Rosita gets out of bed and throws Abraham a necklace that she made for him and his bare ass, lonely neck. Abraham calls her perfect, and Rosita wants proof of that in the shower. Ooh. Rosita is present for Rick's speech where he talks about attacking the satellite outpost in exchange for trade with the Hilltop. She doesn't object. Later that night, Rosita catches Abraham packing away his things, thinking at first he's packing for tomorrow's attack. She then realizes that he's leaving her. She asks him why, but he just says that's how it is. She angrily stops him from leaving, asking for a reason before he walks out. He tells her he thought she was the last woman on Earth when he met her, but she isn't. He leaves and Rosita begins to sob. She turns around while sobbing to see Eugene stood there like a dork. She slams the door on him when he tries to spark up a conversation about cookies. They head off to the attack, but stop halfway. Rosita finds Carol revealing that she wanted to tell everyone about Morgan keeping a secret wolf in Alexandria after he tried to object to the satellite outpost attack. Carol is dismissive of Rosita, saying that Morgan doesn't want to kill, and there's nothing wrong with that. Rosita bites back, saying we don't like to kill, but you sometimes have to. She then assures Carol that she won't reveal that secret after all. They gather up again as the sun begins to set. Rick gives a little speech going over the plan. Rosita rolls out with the rest of the group at midnight. After the two main guards are killed and Craig is rescued, she rushes into the outpost with the others, trying to locate the arsenal. She splits off with Aaron, however the surprise attack fails and the alarm blares off. Rosita and Aaron split up, it seems, and Aaron kills a guy and nearly gets killed by another when Rosita shoots that man and saves Aaron. Rosita then instructs Aaron to kick in a locked door whilst she covers him. Whilst Aaron is kicking it, she stays by her word and kills another saviour. Aaron breaks through, but it's just cleaning supplies behind the door. In the morning, Rosita sweeps the exterior of the compound with the others. Tara says bye to Rosita as she and Heath head out to go on their supply run. When Primo rides out on Daryl's bike, Rosita is the one to shoot him off it. When Paula radios her threats and that she has captured Carol and Maggie, Rick proposes a trade. Rosita is on alert, looking around for any flanks. Off screen, the group track where Carol and Maggie have been taken to, eventually coming across some smoke and reuniting with both women in the slaughterhouse. Gabriel and Rosita rush off to search the rest of the building. Some days pass, and Rosita at some point had sex with Spencer Monroe. She awakes one morning looking ashamed and dresses herself, leaving Spencer asleep in bed. Eventually, Rosita is harassed by Spencer, who wants to cook her dinner at his. Rosita says she's good. Spencer asks what was it they had, and Rosita coldly says, "Fine, we'll do dinner." Rosita expects to be given Denise a weapons lesson, but instead Denise wants to go to a boutique store to look for medicine. Denise herself wants to go. Daryl says no. Rosita agrees, but Denise pulls that "I'll go myself" card, and Rosita refuses to babysit her by herself, so all three are going to be going in the truck. Rosita listens to Denise explain old trucks to Daryl, and she says heads up as they drive to a fallen tree. Rosita and Daryl scout the area. Rosita comments that the tree fell on its own and kills a walker trapped underneath it, grabbing some booze hidden there too. She tells Denise it's clear, and they get to walking. Daryl refuses to take the tracks, and Denise goes with Daryl, so Rosita decides to walk the tracks on her own. She's twice as fast as them, so waits for them to reach her, and eventually they do. Denise tells Rosita she didn't mean to choose Daryl over her, but Rosita just tells Denise she's holding her machete wrong. Denise asks her who taught her all of this stuff, and Rosita says a lot of people taught her things. They reach the boutique store. Rosita and Daryl attempt to pry open the door. They sweep it, but it's clear, and eventually Rosita finds the pharmacy and Daryl pries the shutters open. Rosita and Daryl begin to take all the medication. They hear some banging, but just say it's one walker, so it's cool. They rush over to Denise when she knocks over some glass, asking her what the hell she's doing. They finish up and find Denise outside, sulking, ready to head back. Rosita says she's tried to tell her that she's not ready, and Denise just agrees. When they reach the tracks, Rosita expects them to split up again, but Daryl says it's cool. He's cool with tracks now. He's no longer track phobic. Denise finds something in the car that she wants and shouts to Daryl and Rosita, but Rosita tells her that they got what they came for, so just leave it, Denise. But Denise doesn't, and risks her life for a cooler. Rosita rushes over with Daryl but allows Denise to kill the walker herself when she rages and says that she wants to. She then listens to Daryl berate Denise. Rosita then calls her stupid. Denise asks if she's stupid. Denise explains that was important to her and that she invited Rosita here because she's alone. Denise explains her faults and tells them that they're both smart, they're both good people, and if they just bang. Denise is hit with an arrow. Rosita raises her gun at the men who did it, but she lowers it when her and Daryl are outmatched and Eugene is being used as a hostage. Dwight acts all tough to Daryl. Rosita has her weapon taken from her and stares daggers at Dwight as he talks to Rosita and asks him what does he want. Dwight asks for her name, she gives it to him, and Dwight explains that they're going to let him and his men into Alexandria and then let them take what they want or who they want, or they'll kill Eugene, then Rosita, and then Daryl. Eugene seemingly gives up Abraham's location and then bites Dwight's dick to give them an opening. Rosita grabs her gun, gets to cover, and saves Abe's ass. Rosita shoots at Dwight, but he and his men fall back. Rosita stops Daryl from running after them, and then helps Eugene as he's been shot, and then helps also pick him up to carry him back to Alexandria to get medical assistance. Rosita treats Eugene and sits with him in the infirmary. Abraham comes in and Rosita tells him that Eugene will be fine, it's just a graze. And then later on, Rosita replaces Eugene's guard duty shift and nods her head at Sasha. When Sasha and Abraham swap positions, Rosita notices the smile she gives and clocks on that Abe and Sasha are a thing now. Daryl comes to the gate on his bike, heading off to hunt for Dwight. Abraham tries to join in on the rescue party, but Rosita stops him and points out he should stay as she knows where Daryl is going. Rosita and the Daryl rescue party arrive at the train tracks, Rosita pointing out it's where Denise died. Michonne finds Daryl's bike hidden and Glenn asks Rosita which way did Dwight run, but Rosita is reluctant to stop Daryl. Glenn shuts that shit down and talks sense into her. Rosita agrees and gives the location of where Dwight ran to. They head off looking for Daryl. They eventually find him and Rosita is almost shot with an arrow for her troubles. Rosita tells Daryl to watch out and Daryl argues they shouldn't have come. He storms off anyway, not listening to Glenn's reasoning. Rosita says she can't leave it either and goes to join Daryl in his murder mission. Later, the duo find Glenn and Michonne have been taken hostage by the Saviors, and they slowly sneak up. However, Dwight sneaks up on them, and Rosita is put at gunpoint by a Savior. Daryl is shot, and Rosita is captured by the Saviors and kept in the back of a van. When night comes and Rick and the others are captured, Rosita along with Michonne, Daryl and Glenn are added to the lineup. Negan of course reveals himself and gives his big speech to the group, eyeing them all up for size. Rosita looks pretty horrified the whole time. After he's done with his speech, he begins to do eeny, meeny, miny, mo on the group. And then shock, he kills the cameraman. In season 7, turns out he actually killed Abraham. Rosita listens as her former boyfriend's head is bashed into mush, crying her eyes out. Negan presents the bloody bat to Rosita, demanding that she looks, figuring out she and Abe were a thing. Negan demands Rosita takes a damn look, and Daryl swings at Negan and punches him in defense of Rosita. For this, Negan gives another little speech and then kills Glenn, right next to Rosita. Negan then takes Rick after he threatens Negan. Eventually, Negan returns with Rick and Rosita watches Negan break Rick by asking him to chop off his son's arm and holding guns to Rosita and everyone else's heads. Rick is broken and Negan leaves, taking Daryl with him. She watches a distraught Maggie declare she wants to fight the Saviors, and then Sasha volunteers to take Maggie to the Hilltop. Sasha then tells Rosita that she's going to take Abraham's body too. Rosita agrees and helps load his body to the truck with Eugene's help as well. She then returns to Alexandria with the majority of the group. We also see her be killed by Negan in Rick's imagination, and she shows up in the imaginary dinner scene with an alive Glenn and Abraham too. A few days later, Rosita and Spencer drive to the gate wanting to head out to look for supplies, asking Eugene to open it. Spencer asks Eugene to come, but he declines. Rosita is snarky to him in return. Suddenly they hear trucks roll up. Spencer opens the gate to Negan and Rick rushes over to greet him. Rosita listens and watches. When Negan lays out the rules, Rosita looks defiant and he picks her out to highlight the rules apply to everyone. Rosita doesn't agree, just walks away. She returns to the car wanting to head out to look for supplies, but Dwight stops her. Dwight takes their guns and then asks Rosita to get him Daryl's bike. He takes her hat, tells her to go, but then also empties her canteen, taunting her like an absolute dickhead. Spencer and her then head out to get that bike. They arrive at where Daryl stashed it and where Denise died as well, and Spencer recovers the bike, blaming everything on Rick as he does so, accepting this is their life now. Rosita doesn't really listen to his shit and just walks off into the woods. She finds some zombie saviors in the woods and slowly sneaks up on them to kill them, but Spencer gives her position away. She instead uses a tree as cover to sort of kill them one by one by doing like loops around the tree. Spencer then catches up to her and sees that why she went off all to get a single gun, but said gun is empty. Rosita points out all the saviors are going to take their guns now, and she asks Spencer if he's going to tell them about the gun. Spencer doesn't answer and she just tells him this is not their life and walks away. Eventually she and Spencer return to Alexandria. Spencer hands the bike to Dwight and he thanks Rosita and returns her hat, revealing they took guns and beds and hopes that she has a place to rest her pretty head. He asks if she found anything else out there and she hits back with nothing but your dead friends. Oof. Cold, Rosita. Cold. The saviors leave and Rosita overhears Rick and Spencer talk about Spencer keeping some guns. She angrily confronts him, asking him why he didn't tell her after she did all of that just to get one. Spencer reveals he had them because he didn't trust Rick. He tells her that this doesn't have to be their life, and Rosita storms off to her car, taking the gun that she got from the woods, hidden from the saviors. Later that night, Rosita finds a bullet shell and visits Eugene, asking him to make her a bullet. When Tara returns and learns the news about Denise, Glenn and Abraham's deaths, Rosita is in the infirmary with her and says sorry to her. She asks Tara if she has any leads on guns or ammunition, anywhere or anything. She doesn't care how dangerous it is. Rosita wants to make it right. Tara tells her she didn't see any place that had any guns out there. The next day, Rosita and Eugene are heading out, but Eugene thinks they're going to get stuff for Negan. But Rosita tells him they're not doing that, they're actually going to the bullet factory. She opens the gate as Spencer tells her that there's no worth fighting the saviors. Gabriel offers that they all go out together as a team, but Rosita says no, it's just her and Eugene. Spencer tries to talk her down, saying Rick got them into this mess, but Rosita questions if he could do any better, and he thinks he could. Rosita shuts him down, mocking the fact he's willing to go out there to get stuff for the saviors, telling him to leave her alone. She leaves with Eugene on foot. They arrive at the bullet factory and Rosita scouts it out and unloads the equipment he needs. Eugene protests doing this, but Rosita points out he already agreed to it, but Eugene now doesn't want to. He wants to stop her, calling it stupid, as well as it will just result in her death. A single bullet just won't do it. Eugene points out someone else might die too, but Rosita shuts him down, saying she'll pay the price. She then berates Eugene, calling him a coward and weak, and saying the only reason he's alive is because he lied and because people feel sorry for him. Eugene then begins to make the bullet, all upset. Eventually they arrive back. Rosita now getting her bullet. She thanks Eugene and apologizes, but Eugene rejects the apology, saying she's only saying it now because she feels bad. As they go to the gate, Spencer pulls up with supplies and Rosita mocks the fact he's just going to hand it all to the saviors. They then see the saviors are at their home again, Rosita pointing out that Negan will be there. She storms away as Gary and Laura pick at Spencer's supplies. Rosita instead goes to the church where Gabriel sees her bullet and asks if it's for Negan. She tells Gabriel she'll kill him and she's okay to die if he goes first. She has to die, so he does. Gabriel agrees that he has to die, but not her. Rosita points out if Abraham was here, they'd fight, and if Glenn was here, Maggie's kid would have a father. She points out how everyone has something or someone, but then Gabriel asks about Sasha. Rosita, though, is quiet. Gabriel tells her it shouldn't be her because the future will include her, and begs her not to try and throw her life away just so she can get a chance to maybe kill Negan, because really they should defeat him together. He leaves Rosita be, and it seems to have convinced her. She sits outside on a bench and sees Spencer all dressed up. He tells her he's going to try to woo the Saviours to try and get closer so they're in a better position in the future. Spencer tells her he thought they had something good together and wants to know why she ended it. Rosita tells him he's cute, he's tall, he's sweet, but she used him. Fucking hell, cold Rosita. Spencer asks if she's up for dinner later, and Rosita agrees to it. She watches Spencer talk with Negan whilst the two men play pool. Negan doesn't really like Spencer's shit-talking of Rick and then stabs him in the stomach. Rosita is shocked and appalled seeing Negan kill another one of her lovers and then mocking him as he dies. He asks if anyone wants to finish the game, and that's it. Rosita snaps, she pulls out the gun and shoots at Negan. However, she hits Lucille. A rat slams Rosita to the ground and Negan freaks out. He inspects the shell, seeing it's homemade. A rat holds the knife to her face. Negan orders Rosita to tell him who made the bullet, otherwise he'll have a rat cut her face. Rosita claims it was her, but Negan doesn't buy it. He asks again, but she sticks with the lie and purposely gets her face cut in defiance. Negan, not happy, orders a rat to kill someone, and she shoots Olivia. Rosita is stunned. Rick shows up and Negan explains all that's happened. Eugene admits that he made the bullet. Negan doesn't kill him, instead taking him, Rosita pleading with them not to, as they do. Sometime after this, Rick, Rosita and the others travel to the hilltop, now all willing to fight the Saviours and Negan, meeting with Maggie, Daryl and Sasha, and Enid. In their weird face montage that goes on for way too long, Rosita and Sasha share a look and a smile. Then they all march to the Barrington house. Rosita is present in the meeting with Gregory, but he is unconvinced to fight. When Gregory asks who will train the Hilltoppers, Rosita replies, "Give me a week." Gregory shuts it down. He doesn't want to hear it. He's happy enough for Saviour rule. As they leave his offer, Rosita calls Gregory a walking ballsack. However, after, Enid shows the group that a bunch of Hilltoppers are willing to fight. They go to head back, but Jesus has a radio to listen in to the Saviours and tells the group it's time to go to the kingdom and meet Ezekiel. They wait at the outer edge of the kingdom and Richard and Alvaro rush over on horseback. Richard asks them all to line up and asks for their guns. They follow Richard, then into the kingdom. Rosita takes it all in and ponders if the kingdom can fight. They then find Morgan and have an audience with the king where Rosita sees the tiger. Rick pleads with Ezekiel to join their cause and Rosita listens in. Morgan asks who died and Rosita tells him about the 4 deaths, asking him if he's going to say he was right. But Morgan isn't an ass like that, Rosita. God. In the morning, the king tells the group he's not going to help them, but he offers Daryl refugee status. As they walk out the kingdom, Sasha approaches Rosita and says she knew Ezekiel would say no. Rosita asks, "Why are you talking to me? They might have had sex with the same dead guy, but it doesn't make them friends." On the way back, they find the road is blocked by the Saviours in order to redirect a herd. They move the cars, see the herd, and then find a bunch of dynamite. Rosita points out it's a steel cable because it's for the herd. Rosita gets on it, knowing how to disarm it, telling Tara that backing up won't make a difference when Tara makes a little stupid joke. Negan radios Simon, who voices he's heading to Alexandria to look for Daryl, so they need to hurry. Rosita disarms the dynamite. She directs everyone else how to safely get all the explosives out. She, along with everyone else, gets on it. Rosita tells them to load any of the undented ones onto the truck. She spots one dynamite she doesn't like, and then the herd approaches closer. They hurry up, get in the car. Rosita helps move all the cars back into place. All in all, it's a close call, but they all get away. And as they do, the dynamite that Rosita didn't like the look of blows up, and she quips about it. Rosita arrives at Alexandria with the others just before the Saviours arrive, looking for Daryl. Rosita is then paired up with a Saviour as they look for Mr. Dixon, but also they just want to smash the place up like thugs. She watches Simon in the pantry too comment on their bare shelves and then watches him and his men rush off. Rosita learns that Gabriel was on watch and is connected to the bare-ass looking pantry. Rosita accuses Gabriel of stealing their shit and running, and she can't believe it could be anything else. Rosita looks for tracks but finds nothing, reinforcing that Gabriel doesn't want to be found, and she's right, Gabriel's just a thief. But Rick finds the boat note. Rosita heads out with the others to the boat and then follows the tracks that are there. The Scavengers eventually come out with melee weapons drawn and surround Rosita and the others. Rosita and the group are brought to the junkyard where the Scavengers begin to circle around them like birds of prey. Jadis introduces herself and talks to Rick and brings out Gabriel unharmed. He tells them that about the Saviors, and tells Jadis she ain't getting the boat stuff back. She has the Scavengers attack Rosita and the others, however Rosita puts up a good fight. Gabriel diffuses the situation. Rosita asks, who are these people? New best friends? ? Rick is taken by Jadis to the up, and Rick has to prove himself and is pushed into the Winslow battle arena. Rosita looks through a tube and watches Rick defeat Winslow. She then watches Rick make a deal with Jadis. The Scavengers leave and give back them their weapons and return all the supplies from the pantry. Rosita wants to go out to look for guns for this deal, but Tara shoots it down, wanting to bring the supplies back first. Rosita instead wants to go on her own. Tara tries to act tough, but Rosita asks, what is her problem? It's always a fight. Rosita doesn't care how she wants to win, and then she strops off. Rosita waits as they load up all the supplies, stroppy, asking if they can just go already. The next day, Rosita removes stitches from her cheek. Tara comes over thinking she was going to do it for her. Tara tells her it's going to work out, they're going to be good, but Rosita points out finding that many guns is going to be hard, and they can't just wait. Tara tells her to save her attitude for the Saviors and storms off, chucking some cream or something for her scar. Rosita hands it back, saying she's going to look for guns now. Whilst out looking for some, she comes across what looks like a gun, but a zombie is in her way. She forgets how to kill a zombie for a second, but then does manage to put it down. However, the gun she found turns out to be a toy. Rosita goes to the church that night and tells Gabriel she couldn't find any guns. She was out there all day, but she did have one, but Gabriel talked her out of killing Negan the way she wanted to, basically blaming Gabriel over everything. I mean, projection much, Rosita? Rosita berates Gabe for pretending to know things about people's lives, but Gabriel stands by his decision to talk her out of it because the group still needs her, and if it's his fault she's alive, then he'll live with that. And she can blame him for her being alive, but now she must do something with her life. Rosita finds the Gabriel Riz is infecting her bloodstream, and once again, she takes his advice. The next day, she accompanies Rick and Co to deliver the guns that he and Michonne had found to Jadis, but Jadis is not happy with the amount and wants even more. Rosita is shocked and asks her what she's chatting. Rosita wants to cut their losses, proclaiming this was a waste of time. Jadis says no. Rick bargains with Jadis and they make a new deal, but still need to get them more guns. Later that day, Rosita heads to the hilltop and finds Sasha by Abraham's grave, wanting Sasha's help to kill Negan. Sasha agrees, if she can be the one to take the shot. Rosita takes out a sniper she took and hands it to Sasha. Rosita points out Michonne and Rick are taking too long, and she memorized everything they know about the interior of the sanctuary, and Sasha says Jesus has a map of the exterior. Rosita and Sasha both agree this mission will result in both their deaths, but they accept that. The Saviors arrive and Rosita rushes into Sasha's cabin, asking what they do. They rush to a tunnel Sasha made and escape through it. They escape through the tunnel to the other side and travel through the woods. Rosita asks about the tunnel and Sasha tells her about it before saying let's go kill Negan, and they head off. Rosita hotwires a car and points out a water bottle she needs to siphon gas, and when Sasha leans over to grab it, she sees the necklace that she made for Abraham around Sasha's neck. Rosita is mad and points out that she is the one who made it. They keep going, finding another car, and Sasha asks Rosita questions she doesn't really want to answer. Sasha highlights the building outside the fence of the sanctuary that they can use to snipe Negan from afar in. Rosita wants to go in and doesn't want to risk sniping, but Sasha points out if they're taken, they don't get another try. They then find some walkers and stab them. Rosita says nothing is wrong with her and Sasha can bail if she wants. They find a used car lot and Rosita cuts the fence, smashes the car window and then lights that bitch on fire. to distract the walkers to it. They sneak into the lot. Rosita begins hot-running a car, killing a zombie who interrupts her. She gets the engine going and the two women drive off, running some walkers over as they do, breaking through the chain link fence. They use their car and get into a building opposite the sanctuary, waiting for a clear shot. Rosita ties ropes into knots. Sasha mentions Eugene is there ordering people around. Rosita thinks he's playing some sort of angle. Sasha asks to learn those knots and Rosita is hesitant at first but shows her. Rosita then looks down the scope for a bit. Sasha comments she knows so much. Rosita puts the gun down and reveals where she learned all of her knowledge from. That being her lovers, who wanted to protect her before she eventually met Abraham. Rosita reveals she rolled with and used them for their skills, not caring about them and using them for casual sex, but revealing it was different with Abraham because it was love, and she never looked back. But of course, he broke up with her. She jokes that he actually was all good and she couldn't understand it. She tells Sasha she doesn't hate her and is just mad that Abraham figured out his shit before her. Rosita ponders that she'll never get to tell Abraham she was happy, he was happy, and asks Sasha if she was happy too. Rosita cries as they have their heart-to-heart, both agreeing to have each other's back. Honestly, this is such an underrated scene. They check to see if Negan is out and see Dr. Carson is there. Sasha then sees Negan, but can't get a clear shot on him. They then hear Eugene on the radio looking puzzled why he's now in charge of stuff. They decide to instead go to the sanctuary to attack and also free Eugene. At night, Rosita shoots a savior next to Eugene and tells him to get up, but Eugene runs off saying no, he didn't ask her to come. Rosita cusses his name and they decide to go in. Sasha tells Rosita to keep an eye out for a sec, and she slips through the fence and then chains it back up, stopping Rosita from going in too. Sasha tells Rosita it isn't her time and goes into the sanctuary alone. Rosita is forced to flee. She runs away in tears, but then sees a shadowy Dwight in the distance. Off screen, Dwight told Rosita he was willing to help them fight against the Saviors, and Rosita brought him back to Alexandria and locked him in the cell. A night or two later, Rosita opens the gate for the returning group. Jesus asks about Sasha, but Rosita doesn't answer him, instead bringing them all to Dwight. Daryl goes at him, wanting to kill him, but Rick calms him down, tells Dwight to get on his knees. Rosita watches as Dwight makes his case, and Daryl and Tara get a little murder happy with him. Either way, they let Dwight go on his way. The smelly trash people arrive and Rosita begins to set explosives in a truck outside the walls. Rosita waits in position at the gate. She assures the wall will hold the explosion when Rick asks. Rosita sees Eugene as the one to lead the truck heading towards the gate. He tries to talk Rick down into complying and Rosita is absolutely pissed at Eugene. Even more so when Eugene declares himself Negan. Rosita gives Rick a look as if to say, sure, we can blow that twat up, and Rosita hits the detonator, but nothing happens. Shock, the trash people turned out to be trash allies, and they've got them all at gunpoint. Anyway, Negan gives a little speech, chats his shit, and reveals a coffin with Sasha supposedly inside of it. However, when Negan opens it, Sasha is a zombie. Carl fires the first shots, but Rosita is quick to kill the scavenger, keeping her hostage. Then she proceeds to fire at the Saviors. Rosita is sadly then shot and whisked away to the infirmary by Tara, sitting the rest of the battle out. Later, Rosita is seen recovering in bed with Tara by her side, a mirror of when the roles were reversed in the Season 5 finale. In Season 8, it looks like Rosita has healed up well. She sits on the porch watching as the cars drive out of Alexandria to go to war against the Saviors. She looks pissed that she can't be there. A day or two later, Rosita catches Michonne leaving and points out Rick told everyone to stay. Michonne wants to take a look at the sanctuary. Rosita points out she's healing, but Michonne doesn't want to listen. Rosita instead gets in the car and Michonne says, "You're healing too. You were shot after all," and Rosita says, "I've been shot worse than this, so just drive." So Michonne does. Suddenly Rosita is driving now, I don't know, they must have swapped, and she asks Michonne why she wanted to come out. She explains that she helped to get this started, and every second since it started, she's had this like alarm going on in her head, and she just wants to see the sanctuary to confirm it or some shit, I don't know. Rosita is okay with that reasoning. Suddenly they hear opera music and Michonne tells Rosita to stop. They confirm what it is. Rosita tells her it wouldn't reach the sanctuary and draw the dead away, but Michonne says they don't know that. They walk through the woods towards the sound and find it emanating from a nearby warehouse. Cautiously they walk towards the building, finding a way inside. Inside, they overhear Zia and Leo talk about the situation at the sanctuary as they creep closer towards them, and they loudly talk about their plan to divert the walkers away for a promotion. Michonne accidentally alerts them. Rosita takes aim, but they see her first and shoot at her. Rosita flees away from the gunfire, dropping her gun. She hides as Leo does some cringe savior whispering. Rosita throws an object to the other side of the warehouse, Last of Us style, to divert Leo. Zia tells Leo to go. Rosita runs after him, but on her way finds a cheeky little RPG. Rosita cuts him off, holding the RPG to him. He calls her bluff. No way is she firing an RPG in an enclosed space like this, lol. But she instead fires, absolutely disintegrates him. Wow, one of the goofiest scenes in the show. Zia runs away and gets in their speaker truck. They rush out to see that she's driven away. She's well and truly gone, but Daryl out of nowhere rams the speaker truck with his garbage truck, and Rosita watches him shoot Zia dead. They head over to Daryl and talk about the truck. Tara then asks why both of them are here. Rosita and Michonne both say they want to see the sanctuary. Rosita asks the same, and Daryl says they've got work to do. They all head in the garbage truck, and they park up close to the sanctuary, and Daryl shows it's surrounded by the dead. Rosita asks what they need them to do for Daryl, and he replies they're going to end this right now, and he starts the truck to approach the sanctuary a little bit closer. I guess it's morning now, and Michonne goes over the plan to cover Daryl with gunfire as he smashes the truck into the sanctuary. Rosita asks about the workers' safety, and Daryl says they should be fine. Morgan comes over and puts in his support along with all the other snipers. Rosita questions why not just do it how they planned, and Daryl says they've lost all the Kingdom fighters. But Rosita points out they're going to get the Scavengers soon. Tara asks if she believes them. She got shot because of them, and Rosita proudly states, I believe in Rick Grimes. Tara has a moan, and Rosita claims whatever they do, it's going to be without her, and she bounces. Morgan offering her a car to get her home. She asks Michonne if she's staying, and if she's good with this. Rosita tells Michonne that sometimes you just got to be patient, you just got to wait, and she reflects on her own journey, because she only realised she should have been patient when she saw Sasha come out of the coffin. Rosita then heads home, making a stop at that saviour warehouse, and taking some stuff from them, like stun grenades, smoke grenades, and air horns. Later, Rosita is seen in Alexandria unloading stuff off a truck. Tara comes over to proclaim their plan worked. Rosita accepts that and claims they continue with plan A then, and tells Tara about what she found in that warehouse. Tara asks to help Rosita, so Rosita playfully gives her a large stack of stuff to carry. At night, Negan arrives and Rosita listens to Carl lay out an escape plan. Tara objects, she wants to fight, but Rosita backs up Carl and gets going with his plan. She helps drive the trucks to the back of Alexandria, where they plow through the walls and escape. They abandon the vehicles and await for the pursuing saviors in the tree line. Rosita comments about Tara, pondering if she was to blame for them getting out, and tells her it's a mistake, she made one too by trying to kill Negan too early, and reflects that if they had that gun, Sasha might still be alive. The saviors pull up, Daryl throws a smoke, and the saviors pull right into it because of Dwight. Rosita fires along with the others at them, helping to kill the saviors. Dwight helps too and shoots his own guys. Dwight eventually shouts it's over, and Rosita with the others finds him with a gunshot wound. Dwight tells them how he helped, and they spare him for now. She then watches Daryl consider killing him, but instead just taking his vest back. Rosita then helps Dwight onto his feet. She watches Alexandria be bombed and burned and climbs into the sewers with the others. Michonne doesn't come and Rosita calls to her, but Michonne closes the hatch and wanders off on her own mission. Rosita is later seen in the sewer looking sad after hearing about Carl's bite. She watches Rick and Michonne grieve over Carl, and when Michonne gets angry at Dwight, Rosita steps in and calms her down. She asks Dwight about the Hilltop being spared and suggests that everyone needs to go there for refuge. Dwight points out that the saviors are looking for them right now, and they should stay here until they're gone, and that the saviors will be done bombing soon. Dwight asks if the Hilltop is a good plan, but Rosita affirms it, and Daryl says a cool line to shut Dwight up. Soon, they hear no more grenades, and they hear trucks rolling out. So Daryl checks it out, and it's clear, so Rosita goes with them all, leaving Rick, Carl, and Michonne behind. They walk for a while, until the morning in fact, and they narrowly avoid some saviors looking for Carson and Gabriel, Daryl instructing them to stay off the roads. Tara throws a surprise walker onto Dwight and Rosita shouts at her for it, but Dwight kills it. Rosita asks Daryl if she heard the Saviors talking about Carson and Gabriel and points out they're probably heading to the Hilltop too. She then steals a walker kill from Daryl. They walk some more, and Rosita tells Daryl they all need to rest. Daryl says just 10 minutes, and Rosita tells Daryl she'll help cover their tracks. Tara wants to murder Dwight. Rosita tells Tara not yet, that he could have some angle, and points out they only just lost Carl, and tells her to stop being annoying, at least until they get to the Hilltop. They look at a map and try to decide which way to go, and Dwight suggests a swamp that the Saviors won't go to because it's dangerous. Tara highlights if it's dangerous for them, it's dangerous for us, but Rosita says there's no other choice, they're boxed in, and then listens to Dwight plead his case for why they should trust him. They head to the swamps and see it's got walkers in it. Rosita asks Tara if she's coming to help, but she says she's going to keep guard of the others. Rosita heads into the swamp and gets grabbed by a surprise walker, but she stabs it. Rosita clears a path with the others, but sees Tara run after Dwight and goes too. She finds Tara emerge out of the trees without Dwight and explains she saw Tara running after Dwighty boy. She then watches Daryl scream at Tara for letting Dwight go. Rosita backs Tara up. With a clear path, they begin to wade through the swamp and eventually they arrive at the Hilltop, breaking the news about Carl's death and the destruction of Alexandria. Rosita helps Maggie on guard duty and they discuss Rick's loss and says that he'll keep going and survive. Rosita adds it'll be harder once the war is over, but agrees if Negan's dead, it won't be so hard for her. Maggie finds a weird box thing with a note and Rosita goes out to get it. The note has coordinates to a meet point with a promise to a key to your future for food or for records. Rosita is like, this is a trap, it's obvious. Michonne wants to go out on her own and Rosita proclaims that she'll go too if Michonne goes, and then Maggie and Enid decide to come as well, so whatever. We're doing a female team up, progressive, love it. As the other women meet Georgie and her cringe sidekicks, Rosita flanks the three women. She pats one of the sidekicks down, taking a gun. Georgie explains she's trading knowledge. Rosita searches the truck and asks how many communities they found. Not many at all, apparently. Georgie preaches and Rosita almost dies of cringe. Anyway, Maggie decides to capture the three of them and Rosita helps take them and their van back to the Hilltop. Rosita guards them as they wait outside. Eventually Maggie comes back and makes a deal with Georgie, records for food and a key to the future. Then they leave. Thank God. Rosita helps to prep for the battle at the Hilltop. At night, the Saviors arrive and she helps to defend the community. She shoots at the headlights of the Saviors' trucks to cast them in darkness. The Saviors try a sneak attack in the dark, but they light them up and Rosita helps to send the Saviors packing back home. When all the injured people turn due to the Saviors using gutted weapons, or using walker guts on their weapons, Rosita honestly is nowhere to be seen. Like, I could not find her in a single one of these scenes. She survives, I guess. Well, obviously. Maybe she was just guarding or something, but she just isn't present. Rosita visits Maggie the next day after she had helped to get relay cars into position, giving them 15 minutes warning if the Saviors come back. Oh wait, maybe that's what she was doing. Maggie asks about the ammo and Daryl thinks the Saviors must be out of ammo, but Rosita points out they have a bullet maker and she knows where Eugene will go if they want him to make more. At night, her and Daryl scout the factory in a building adjacent to it, seeing and commenting it's operational. She then sees Eugene through the binoculars and declares, they're not going to take out the machines. They're going to take out the man. In the morning, when Eugene exits, Daryl kills one of his guards and Rosita stabs the other. She takes his bag and then whisks Eugene away by gunpoint. Guess she changed her mind about killing Eugene as they walk presumably back to the Hilltop, well, back to their car to get to the Hilltop. Eugene begins flapping his mouth until Daryl threatens him with a knife, Rosita stopping Daryl from hurting him, telling him they have to keep going. Eugene thanks her, but then she tells him to shut up and they continue to move, until Eugene continues flapping his mouth and Rosita tells Eugene he was the reason they escaped the sanctuary. Everyone who's died since is on him. Eugene blames Rick and Rosita snaps, putting a gun to Eugene's chin. She calls him selfish, a coward, and threatens to put him in a dark hole for the rest of his life, only letting him out if they need him for something, allowing him to do something useful with his pathetic life. Soon they come across some walkers and Daryl goes ahead to take them out. Rosita keeps watch over Eugene, but he sticks his fingers down his throat and vomits all over her. Vile. Fucking hell, just vile. Disgusting. He runs away, and Rosita is caught up killing some zombies, so Eugene gets a head start. She shoots at him as he gets through a fence hole. They walk through piles of ash looking for him, and Rosita and the expert tracker Daryl Dixon are unable to find out that Eugene has 2 seconds ago hid himself under the ash. Anyway, they run off, Rosita declaring if Daryl sees him to kill him. They clearly don't find Eugene, and they instead head back to the hilltop. They discuss the plans that Gregory has brought them that he had got from Dwight, and they all leave the hilltop ready for the final battle. Later, Rosita and the others spy on a roadblock being set up on the road. They attack and kill the Saviours setting it up, and they find a supposed new plan for the Saviours. So they redirect their plan. Rosita walks across the field in the hopes to surprise attack the Saviours. They see a large herd of walkers on the horizon, and they carry on walking, but suddenly they hear Saviours whistling, spooking Rosita and everyone else. Negan gives his little speech saying, "Everyone's gotta die, blah blah blah." The Saviours' bullets, of course, blow up in their faces. Rick shouts, "Now!" and they charge and attack. She finds Eugene being attacked by Regina and some other Saviours. She shoots Regina and kills the other Saviours and saves Eugene. The Saviours surrender. Rick comes back after slitting Negan's throat, giving a speech, and they're all going to move forward now as one. And he, of course, is sparing Negan. Rosita watches a distraught Maggie cry. After Rick's speech, she asks Eugene if he did that to the Saviour's guns. He confirms it was him and explains how he did it and how it was partly inspired by Rosita's harsh words just before he vomited on her. She's grateful but punches Eugene in revenge for puking on her, and Eugene says that's fair. Later on, Rosita arrives at the sanctuary to bring them new glass to help repair the windows. She gives an assured nod to Laura as Tara talks to Frankie. A school bus pulls up with more glass and more workers, and Rosita helps to rebuild the sanctuary. In the time skip between Season 8 and Season 9, Rosita moved briefly to the sanctuary with Daryl and Eugene in order to help run it. In Season 9, at the sanctuary, Rosita helps Eugene with something. Later, Rosita pulls up on her sick-ass quad bike to meet with the scavenging group. She shows the group the now-destroyed bridge, taken down by a large herd, and informs that the other route is too close to the herd. As the others decide what to do, Rosita spray paints "Bridge Out" on a sign. She then checks on the trade routes and eventually heads with Daryl to Oceanside. Some days later, Rosita helps out at the bridge camp. She runs the armory, it seems, and hands out guns to Kathy and Beatrice. She soon meets with Rick to inform him that the scouts have found a herd is going to be passing them by, and it's going to be quite close. A head count of about 100. She asks if they should use explosives, but he instead suggests they should use their sirens. Rick tells her to blow the rock slide, and if the herd hears it, they'll redirect that herd. Rosita goes to inform the people in charge of that. She then rigs explosives with a rat near the rock slide. A rat thinks they should be further back, but Rosita tells her it's fine and to trust her. A rat asks if the trust is both ways, but Rosita says no because a rat sliced her face. But technically, Rosita, you pushed your face into that blade. I'm just saying. Rosita then detonates the bomb. At night, Rosita is at camp eating and laughing with Eugene, Tara and Diana, and she's also playing cards. When Justin is murdered, chaos erupts at the camp between the Saviours and everyone else. Rosita gets in on the fight and tackles a Saviour. Alden tries to calm things down, but gets punched by Jed. Rosita looks pissed. Carol draws a gun. Rosita does too. The Saviours want guns for protection, but Daryl says no. Carol says no. Everyone says no. Allegations get flung. DJ grabs an axe, and Rosita takes aim. But suddenly, Rick, Dickie Doodog Rhymes, comes in galloping and puts a stop to their antics. Rosita runs over to help Maggie and Cindy with some walkers sometime after, but they can deal with them, Rosita. They don't need help. Rosita asks Rick, where's Grid 5? They should have been here sooner, but they get no response from Grid 5. They find Beatrice, a member of Grid 5, but not a rat, another member. Sometime after, Rosita rushes to find Rick injured on the bridge with a herd behind him. She follows Maggie's orders and rushes to try to redirect the herd away, but it doesn't work and the bridge blows up with Rick on it. Also, Rosita fights walkers on the bridge in Rick's hallucination. In between Rick's disappearance and the 6-year time skip, Rosita moved back to Alexandria after the sanctuary fell. A few years later, Rosita was out on a scavenging mission with Scott when she came across Jocelyn and her children. Rosita helps Jocelyn back to Alexandria and surprised that her and Michonne know each other. Jocelyn goes in for treatment and Rosita runs over when she stumbles out demanding that they have to go back to get the other kids. Eventually, Rosita accompanies a group to go to the factory to look for them. Rosita asks Mitchell if he's sure they'd be here. One of the kids climbs into an air duct and unlocks a door where they find some weird ass drawings but also all the other kids. That night she's at the barbecue and in the morning the kids go missing. The next day she sees Michonne and Daryl return to Alexandria with all of the children. Judith runs into Rosita's arms and Rosita picks up the child and carries her back into the community. A month or weeks before the time skip, Rosita had sex with Sadiq, likely in a friends with benefits type of deal. Soon after this, she also started a relationship with Gabriel Stokes. Okay, 6 years later from Rick's disappearance, Rosita is out hunting when Judith goes missing. She shouts for her and eventually Judith comes out along with Magna and her group. Judith wants to bring them back, but Rosita tells her they can't because of Alexandria's strict no-new policy that was implemented after the Jocelyn situation went down. She claims she won't go if they won't go, and Rosita looks pissed, but she accepts and they flee with them. Eventually they arrive at Alexandria and Rosita opens the gates. Rosita waves at Sadiq, telling him about Yumiko and how she needs treatment. Sadiq inspects her and says that Alex is prepped with the nurses and will take her right now. Rosita watches Michonne arrive, mad, and she pats them all down. She doesn't appear to be at the council vote to decide Magna's group's fate, but she does hear about what happened in the vote. Later, Rosita finds Gabriel testing out the radio. Gabriel says there could be more people out there, and Rosita argues Michonne is wrong for judging Magna for being an inmate. Michonne just has her guardrails up, and there is still time for her to change her mind. Gabriel talks about Eugene's plan to set up an amplifier, but Rosita points out that Michonne won't like it, and it could be dangerous. Rosita grabs the map and volunteers to go herself along with Eugene. Gabriel questions it, and Rosita kisses him. Gabriel says she's amazing, and Rosita says she won't stop him from telling her that, and she goes off to set up the radio amplifier. Her and Eugene head out on a wagon and she asks if the circuits are descrambled. He's working on it. Eugene asks about her and Gabriel's relationship. Rosita just wants to focus on what they're doing, but Eugene casts shade on Rosita's new man, clearly setting himself as a superior replacement. They come across fresh walker tracks, a lot of them it seems, but they're going the opposite way, so they don't think it will be an issue. They reach a water tower and begin to set up the amplifier. Rosita shouts up to Eugene on the tower that it's looking good, and he heads down, but as he does he sees a herd. Rosita shouts for him to get his ass down, and she bolts to the horses, but the horses decide to dip themselves. Rosita grabs stuff from the wagon, and then hears Eugene fall from the tower. She runs over to him to find he's hurt his knee. She goes to grab a makeshift crutch for him, as he can't put weight on it, and they begin to hobble out of there. The two continue to flee from the herd that appears to be following them. Eugene stops moving and Rosita tries to get him to go. He says he's holding her back and to leave him, and he begins to start to confess his love to her, but she tells him to stop making things weird and to just come on. They make it past the herd, it seems, and slide down into the mud, covering themselves in it. As they hide and quiver, they hear the herd appear to speak, asking, "Where are they?" Rosita covers her mouth in shock. Rosita and Eugene eventually get out of their muddy hiding place, and Rosita leaves Eugene in a barn to go get help. She also gets a nasty head injury in this process. She runs through the woods, the Whisperers following her closely, but she's hurt and exhausted. She tries to drink, but there's no water left, and she collapses at a tree. She hears the whispering closing into her, and she pushes herself until she can't go anymore and just collapses. Eventually, though, she awakes and she's able to fire a flare. Aaron and Jesus find her collapsed by a tree. Rosita reveals that she left Eugene in a barn, and they help get her up and get her to the hilltop as she falls back into unconsciousness. Whilst there, she is treated by Dr. Enid. Eventually, Michonne and Sadiq come to visit her. Rosita wakes up panicked and asks where is she and how long she's been there. Rosita doesn't want to stay in bed. She wants to save Eugene. Michonne points out that Daryl took a group, but Rosita declares that they have no idea what they're dealing with, whilst she hops out of bed. She clearly doesn't run very far, because the next day she's She sees the group arrive back with Jesus' body and Lydia captive, but Eugene is safe. Rosita looks shocked though that Jesus is dead. Rosita helps Sadiq put Eugene's knee back into position. Sadiq leaves, and then Rosita goes to get Eugene some water, but he grabs her hand and stops her. He proclaims he was so scared for her whilst he was out there, and it could have been him who died and not Jesus. He tells her he's done waiting, and he's about to confess his love when Rosita runs off in a hurry to vomit outside. Sadiq comes out to her, and she reveals that she's pregnant with his child. Later in the day, Rosita attends Jesus' funeral. Rosita recovers a bit and eventually returns to Alexandria off screen, where she revealed to Gabriel that she's pregnant with Sadiq's child. She attempts to put on trousers, but they don't fit her now because she's got a bun in the oven. Gabriel returns home and Rosita proclaims it went well in a sarcastic tone. She asks what Michonne said, but Gabriel doesn't want to talk about it. He apologises as he's dealing with a lot, but Rosita says it's okay and she understands. Rosita says sorry as they were just starting off their relationship and now she's preggers. But Rosita says, if it's too much and he wants to go, she'll get it. But she assures that that's not what she wants, and together they can handle this messy situation. Rosita then leaves the father to ponder it, and she leaves to head to her house. Eventually, Gabriel agrees to talk it out with Sadiq and Rosita meets with both men at her house. They head inside and they discuss it all like adults. Later, she learns that Eugene helped to talk Gabriel into staying with Rosita. Rosita travels to the Kingdom Fair and listens to Ezekiel's opening speech and claps as the doves are released and the music starts playing. Rosita eventually finds Eugene as she's looking for something to lay down on. She asks what he is doing and he reveals he's building a radio so they can use the relayer they set up. Rosita approves and she says that they can still talk and they can still be friends. She thanks him for talking to Gabriel, but he says it's not necessary to say thanks. Rosita then begins to help Eugene, deciding not to rest, helping him with a little radio project. Eugene invites her to play an RPG campaign, but Rosita says, nah mate, don't push your luck. Sometime after, Rosita hears about those who were beheaded by Alpha, and she listens to Sadiq's speech about what happened. Some months later, winter comes. Rosita tries to get the heaters working as it's cold at Alexandria. Gabriel hugs her, saying that they can keep each other warm. Rosita tells him the baby inside her is listening, so shush. Eugene barges in and cockblocks. The power outage means that they all have to gather into 3 places that have large fireplaces. Rosita says she'll get dry firewood and they'll just ride it out. However, they've got to go get Negan because he'll freeze to death otherwise. Rosita brings him into the meeting hall where this little group is staying and they cuff him up. Negan comments about the relationship dynamics of Rosita, Gabriel, Sadiq and Eugene, making jokes. Gabriel shuts him down and Negan comments on the weird smell and suddenly the fireplace explodes because the chimney's ventilation is fucked. As they can't set a fire, Rosita suggests that they leave to go to Aaron's house. They begin to set off, forgetting Negan. Rosita jokes they could leave him and tell Michonne it was an accident. All grabbing onto a rope, the church doors open and the storm is brewing outside. Rosita travels with the others through the blizzard. Judith runs after Dog. Negan runs after Judith. Rosita tells people to not let go of the rope. Anyway, all 3 come back safe in the end, and they make it to Aaron's house safely. In the morning, Rosita and Gabriel return to their house. In between season 9 and 10, Rosita gave birth to a daughter. She named her Socorro, Coco as a nickname. She also got a mahuahuitl, an Aztec club-style weapon, and made it her signature weapon. In season 10, months have passed and a post-pregnancy Rosita boxes are back. She breastfeeds Coco and Eugene tries to take a little peek. Rosita gives him a fuck off look. Eugene turns music off, making Coco cry, so Rosita turns it back on. She boxes some more. Eugene and Sadiq argue about heating milk, and Rosita shows displeasure in Eugene's research on her baby. Rosita complains that Gabriel has been talking too much on the radio and blames Eugene. Gabriel, though, is too distraught and tells them that the Whisperers have returned. Rosita walks into the meeting hall to do a meeting, interrupting school lessons. She's then seen leaving the meeting, and later she sees the satellite crash to Earth. A day or so passes. Walkers keep arriving at Alexandria over a 49-hour period. The following night, she and Eugene are stabbing walkers at the gate, and Rosita thanks him for coming out with her. Rosita asks if he wants to go back, but he says he's good, and they continue bonding via killing walkers. In the morning, they retire to a house and Eugene compliments Rosita's toughness. Her compliment back isn't as good, calling him tough as a batshit badger. Eugene asks where Coco is and Rosita says with Barbara. Eugene claims that he was protecting Rosita, but she is insulted, reminding him that she taught him how to fight. Sensing his feelings for her lingering, she firmly states they'll never be together and he is not Coco's father. She apologises for being harsh due to her exhaustion and feeling almost drunk. He points out she must be speaking truth then. She says, well, duh, I've been trying to tell you this. Eugene had hoped something would change, but accepts there's nothing there. Rosita says, I still want to be friends, and is insulted that their friendship doesn't seem to mean much to him. Eugene admits that their friendship was based on him trying to get out of the friend zone, and admits that makes him not a good friend at all. He says sorry, and then leaves. At night, Rosita and Gabriel stroll Coco around Alexandria. Rosita eats in the meeting hall and watches Lydia gut a squirrel to piss off Margot, Gage and Alfred. Sometime after this, Rosita gets sick with a stomach bug. Unknown to her, this was actually caused by Dante sabotaging the water. She's checked up on by Dante and radios Eugene at the Hilltop, confirming she wants to speak to him. She informs him about her bug and asks him what he's been up to. She asks if he's coming back and he doesn't really respond, just commenting it's good to hear her voice. Eugene's radio plays up and Rosita says she should get back into bed, asking to call in the afternoon. Later, Rosita rests on the couch and Sadiq arrives with Coco. He asks her why she's not in bed and she explains that she was in bed, she came downstairs and then felt worse and collapsed on the couch. Sadiq checks her temperature as Rosita explains Gabriel is out on patrol. Sadiq demands that she has to come to the infirmary. Rosita tries to protest but gives in and she's helped there by Sadiq. They arrive to find it packed full of sick residents. Rosita takes a seat and Dante tells Sadiq he didn't tell him the illness has spread as he didn't want to worry him. Sadiq shouts at Dante and Rosita calms him down. She watches Sadiq rush around trying to help and Rosita just looks shocked. The rest of the day she's treated for her illness. Rosita is checked up on again by Sadiq, and she asks him if he's okay. He says yes and comments she looks pasty. Rosita says she still looks gorgeous, and Sadiq jokes if it wasn't for Gabriel, he'd make a move, and Rosita tells him not to let that stop him as Gabriel doesn't get jealous. In response to this, he gets in the bed with her. Rosita talks about Eugene and how she missed one of their radio dates, and Sadiq says it'll be fine, and Eugene's poop charts were on point. They laugh about how they have a kid together and how it freaks them both out. Rosita says Coco is lucky to have him and she is too. They almost kiss, but Rosita then has a coughing fit. Sadiq gets her some water and Rosita asks him if he's sure he's okay. He claims he is and tucks her back into bed, kissing her on the forehead. Later, Rosita watches Sadiq jump into the lake and she jumps in there herself to pull him out. Rosita tells him she heard about the captured Whisperer's death and how that's probably affected him, but he doesn't want to talk about it. She puts her foot down, start talking, Sadiq. Rosita wants to know what's been eating him up for the past few weeks. Sadiq explains it's his trauma from watching the Pike victims being beheaded. He is sad about Cheryl too, and Rosita points out that he's doing the best he can, and he is not alone. He also misses Enid and claims he failed her. Rosita says it ain't on him, but Sadiq tells her she wasn't there, he didn't move, and he just watched his friends die, and he claims that more people are going to die because he's not smart enough. Rosita calls BS and tells him to fight it and pull through for Coco, for her, for everyone who loves him, and he can do that because he is not alone, adding his smarts are due to her, getting a little laugh out of Sadiq. Sadiq then clocks on what's making people sick and tells Rosita to go home, rushing off. That night, she sees a light at Sadiq's house and heads there to check on him with Coco, calling for him but meeting with a sussy Dante. They speak in Spanish and Rosita claims she saw a light on and came to check because Sadiq isn't sleeping much. Dante claims Sadiq got called out to help a sick child and Rosita accepts that excuse, but then she hears a snarl coming from within and begins to back off. Dante then pursues her with a knife. Rosita places Coco in the tub and Dante charges her, throwing her to the ground. He attempts to strangle her as a zombie Sadiq goes to attack baby Coco, and Dante jokes that sometime in nature, parents eat their young. Mother intuition kicks in and Rosita kicks off Dante, grabs a knife and stabs him, pulling the knife out, running to zombie Sadiq and stabbing him in the head with it. She rushes back to Dante, kicks him, and then punches the ever-living fuck out of him. The next morning, Rosita watches Dante being interrogated by the others, and he claims he likes Sadiq. Rosita questions the logic and claims they helped him. He says they got what they want from him too. She then cusses him out, and when he keeps yapping, Rosita kicks him off the bed and storms out. Rosita attends Sadiq's funeral and listens to Gabriel's eulogy. She sprinkles dirt onto Sadiq's grave for the ceremony. After everyone leaves, Rosita stays behind by the grave, mourning him. She walks down the street and hears walkers banging on the walls. She goes outside to let out her rage, killing two with this knuckle duster type weapon. Another zombie sneaks behind her. It's got a helmet on and it almost bites her. She pushes it away and begins to punch it, but not kill it. Eugene comes out of nowhere, body slams the walker. They take the helmet off and they kill it. Rosita thanks him, but he says it's okay. He's just glad he saw her whilst he was travelling. But he tells her that he's not coming back to Alexandria. He's going to be going back to the Hilltop. And he says he was sorry to hear about Sadiq. Rosita arrives back home and Gabriel asks about what happened as she's covered in blood. She explains she was killing walkers at the gate with Eugene. She asks about Coco and then clarifies that Eugene was actually helping her. She's been having trouble killing walkers. Rosita ponders that she could die. She wasn't scared of it before, but now she is because it will make Coco an orphan. Gabriel dismisses the concern. Rosita worries she'll freeze again and Gabriel doesn't care. He has a million things to do. Rosita is mad and asks if he has heard what she is saying, and Gabriel shuts it down very harshly, saying, "The feeling will pass, Rosita. Stop whining." Rosita ponders if Dante was right, that they're all not as strong as they think and they're all going to rip each other apart. Later, Rosita is seen cradling Coco, talking to her when she looks out the window to see a bloody Gabriel leaving the cell Dante was in. Later that night, Gabriel burns Dante's dead body and Rosita arrives by the bonfire and rests her head on his shoulder, making up over murder. Very topical. Rosita has a dream that she wakes up to hear Coco cooing. She grabs a towel and some stuff for Coco, and then she turns around in her dream and sees this whisperer holding a knife to Coco, stabbing her baby, but it was all obviously a dream. She wakes up dazed and panicked. Then she is informed that Gamma is at the gates. She heads to the gates and hears Gamma explain that Rosita's friends are trapped in a cave and also that Gamma is wanting to defect. Gamma claims she's trying to help. Rosita asks why and Gamma says it's for Adam, her nephew. Gabriel looks to Rosita for approval as Gamma walks into the community and Rosita punches her and calls her a liar, demanding Gamma is put in a cell. Gamma comes through from her KO and Rosita points out the blood in the cell is from the last whisperer they had in there. Gabriel claims the kill proudly. Rosita says that Dante killed her baby's father, but Gamma denies knowing anything about it. Rosita calls BS. Gabriel lays out that she's going to have to convince them that she's different, and if she can't convince them, Rosita claims that Gamma will die. Gabriel tries to draw out the whole truth. Rosita listens to Gamma confess to her killing her sister, and takes her to the meeting hall where Gamma shows them where the cave is on a map. Rosita asks about the border, but Gamma claims it's clear. Gabriel wants to send out rescue parties, but Rosita questions if it's all legit. Gabriel is sure that Gamma isn't lying, and he goes on this psycho rant about how they should start pulling teeth and taking fingers from any captive whisperers. Rosita is shocked and stunned at her man. Rosita gears up with Gabriel. He asks if she's okay and she denies any problems, and Gabriel asks her to instead defend the gate. Rosita claims she's not going to freeze, she's good, but he's being erratic and itching for a fight, citing how he wants to take fingers and pull teeth. She opens up that she can feel Coco knows that Sadiq is missing, and when Gabriel tries to comfort her, she storms off saying that she'll see him out there. Rosita catches Judith talking to Gamma and tells her to get inside. She then stares daggers at Gamma. A little after, Rosita prepares with the others to head out. Echo Post has been attacked and they need to split the groups up. Rosita is overwhelmed, so Gabriel speaks up and dictates that Rosita is going to stay back at Alexandria with Laura to guard the gate. Gabriel says he's sorry, he's speaking for her, but she says it's okay. She worries she will freeze out there and admits she's been having nightmares that they're killing her, the Whisperers that is. Gabriel hands her his hat and kisses her, claiming he'll see her soon. At night, Gabriel radios Rosita because there is no sign of a Whisperer herd or any Whisperers. Gabriel deduces that they made their scouts lie to them over the radio to draw the fighters out of the community. Rosita sees a bunch of Alexandrians turned into walkers and rushes over with Laura. Later, Rosita finds Laura dead in the cell and rushes into Judith's house to save her and Gamma from Beta. Rosita finds him towering over Gamma and engages in a melee fight. Rosita gets a few swings, but is clearly outmatched as she is slashed multiple times by Beta's blade. She gets a good slice across his stomach, but when she goes in for the final blow, he grabs her throat and pushes her to the floor. She lays there helpless, about to be killed, but Gamma threatens to kill herself to stop Beta, meaning Beta spares Rosita. Due to all this, her slashes and cuts via Beta, Rosita prepares to head to the hilltop to be checked by Dr. Alex, leaving Coco with Gabriel. Gabe kisses her goodbye, Gamma, RJ and Judith join Rosita in the wagon to the hilltop, and Rosita formally introduces herself to Gamma, now having respect to her. They then set off to the hilltop, soon arriving at the community. Rosita heads into the attic to find Eugene's radio, but no Eugene, and she hears Stephanie, aka Max, talking on it. She picks it up and says hello to the voice, and Eugene rushes down the stairs in a panic, grabbing the radio off her. Rosita thinks it's an Oceanside lady, but Eugene just tells her to go, and she looks terrible. She points out she was attacked by Beta, thanks for asking, and asks what's wrong with him. Eugene says she's just made him break a promise, and Rosita leaves. In the meeting with the Hilltoppers, where they debate if they should leave or stay, Daryl declares that they're going to Oceanside, and Rosita then hears the roads have been blocked and that they're trapped at the hilltop with the herd coming their way. Rosita and Eugene work on the generators for an electric fence to help in the defense, and Rosita comments she's worried about Coco, but talked to Gabe to find out that Coco is fine, but she didn't tell Gabe about the incoming herd. Eugene is being a skeptic, assuming that they're absolutely fucked, and she shuts him down, asking him about his radio and how he must like this girl. Eugene thinks she doesn't like him, but Rosita's like, get your game on, bro, and points out his room is a dump, so he must have been chatting to her for a while, long enough that she must like him. She then asks him if he wants to kiss her. Eugene leans in, ready to kiss Rosita, but he can't. He has feelings for the radio woman. Rosita confirms that Eugene must really like this girl and takes a swig of her drink. Rosita claims they can't give the Whisperers what they want and tells Eugene to get off his ass and get his girl. Eugene gives her a peck on the cheek and storms off. Rosita practices with her macra whittle. When the Whisperers and the herd approaches, she heads to the attic to fetch Eugene, who proclaims he now has a date. The battle begins and Rosita stays within the walls for the first attack, but then the walkers and the Whisperers breach the gates and begin to burn the hilltop to the ground. Rosita is seen killing walkers in an effort to defend the community. She kills the dead with Eugene, but when he runs into the Barron house to retrieve his precious radio, she kills a Whisperer, and then she's seen killing the dead some more, shocked at the amounts that are piling up. A wall collapses and she charges to go help with it, but there's too many and they're forced to fall back and abandon the hilltop. Rosita evacuates with Daryl, Jerry, Nabila and some others. Rosita asks Daryl about Nabila's kids and Daryl claims they'll be with Ezekiel. They go to the meet point but only find a zombie there and no Ezekiel and no children. Daryl orders everyone to spread out and look for them. Eventually, all the fleeing Hilltoppers are reunited at a separate meet point and Eugene checks on Rosita's wounds. Eugene asks how she's feeling and jokes that he'll bring her to see Dr. Alex when they can find him. Rosita urges Eugene to tell the others so he can get going. Eugene begins to tell the others, but they bombard him with concerns and questions. Eugene is backed up by Ezekiel, and Eugene gives her a pretty good speech. Rosita says bye to Eugene as he, Yumiko, and Ezekiel set off to the Commonwealth. She heads back to Alexandria, but it's not long before she evacuates to the old hospital or tower or whatever you want to call it. Rosita isn't seen fighting, she's still recovering I guess, and off screen she evacuates the tower with Coco. At the evacuation spot, Rosita is seen with Coco and Gabriel rushes over to cover her with his jacket. She also reunites with Maggie. They all head home to a ruined Alexandria, but with the hopes of one day rebuilding it. Rosita also appears in Michonne's drug trip. She's on the Negan lineup, but of course Michonne is the one holding the Lucille and doing the little deciding who to kill in this Walking Dead's version of a what-if scenario. In Season 11, Rosita has healed from her wounds now and helps the group when they go to a military base in order to get some MREs, but the base is full of sleeping walkers. She lowers herself down with some of the others, slowly tiptoeing around the dead to collect the MREs, sending them back up to the men on the roof. There's a close call with a snapping zip line, but Daryl saves it. However, his blood trickles onto the walkers and the walkers then wake up. Rosita helps to kill the dead as they get more MREs. As Magna and Kelly are lifted to safety, Rosita kills more walkers to defend them. And then she goes and hooks herself up to the zipline and is lifted out of there herself. After Carol eventually comes up too, they head back home with their supplies and the morning has come. Rosita attends the meeting on the food situation to hear it's pretty dire. Maggie offers up the idea of getting food from Meridian. Rosita asks about the status of it, and Maggie explains how it was taken by the Reapers. Rosita points out if the Reapers killed her people once, they'll do it again, and that this just sounds like a suicide mission. Rosita then looks really pissed off when Gabriel volunteers to go. The next day, Rosita picks mushrooms out in the woods. Carol joins and points out that they're magic mushrooms. So, they're no good. Rosita tells her she doesn't want to be stuck in the house whilst Gabriel's out on the mission. Kelly and Magna join too and inform Rosita that they're trying to catch Alexandria's horses. They try and fail twice, and they try a third time. Rosita approaches a horse with a rope, joined by the others, flanking it, but it runs away. As they track it down, Rosita joins Carol and asks how she is. She tells Carol she's been having a dream of Abraham, but she can't hear him in the dream, and when she's about to hear him, he gets shot. She theorizes it's a message for Alexandria. They follow the horses' tracks and find some horse corpses. Carol wants to keep going to look for more, and Rosita points out it's late and they don't have to do this right now. They decide to go home, but on the way, Rosita spots some more horses galloping. Rosita explains to everyone that the horses are heading right for the dairy farm, where there's a pen. They're able to pen in the horses and then reclaim them after Kelly suggests a calm approach. Rosita calms a horse herself, and they all arrive back at Alexandria with the horses now in their possession, to the joy of all the other Alexandrians. Rosita then grabs Coco and brings Coco to pet one of the horses, asking her if she wants to pet a pony. She then sees Carol washing her hands of horse blood because they had to eat something, so they decided to chow down on one of the horses. The next morning, when there's a breach in the wall, Rosita rushes over to help close it. She kills a walker that gets in, and the rest of the group lift the wall back up. Rosita comments people are nervous about the unstable wall, and she also points out they're pretty much out of horse meat too. Aaron suggests going to the hilltop for blacksmithing tools. Rosita suggests they may need to just abandon Alexandria, but Aaron refuses. Rosita guards the community and watches the kids do sword training. Hours after, Rosita finds Judith crying over the broken wood panels with her and Carl's handprints on them, and Rosita comments Judith was so small when Carl laid them down, and that Carl wanted them to have a memory together. Judith is upset because it seems like everyone is gone, and Rosita tells her it doesn't get easier, and Judith worries that she'll forget about them all. Rosita tells Judith about her childhood and how her mother had secretly taught her how to survive on her own. She tells her pieces of wood are nice, but she just doesn't need them to know that her family loves and loved her. Rosita then volunteers to fix it for her. As she's fixing it, Eugene radios from the Commonwealth. Rosita asks him if he's okay, and she says that it's good to hear his voice. She tells Eugene the war is over, Alpha and Beta are dead, but they have no food and Alexandria is trashed. They then sadly lose the feed with Eugene. The next day, they discuss rescuing Connie after finding info about her. Carol wants to ride out and Aaron wants a bigger group, but Rosita says just do both. Magna comes to tell them that Kelly has gone. They ride out and eventually find Kelly in the mud. Kelly has some more info about Connie's whereabouts and they begin to follow her trail. Night falls, bringing a storm, and they find the trail splits off and they decide which way to go. Kelly deciding to go left. It was the wrong way, but it doesn't really matter because eventually they find the creepy feral house and Rosita kills walkers as Connie and Kelly reunite. The storm rages on hard though, and Rosita helps to barricade Aaron's house as all the residents coop up inside. When the door busts open, Rosita rushes over to shut it. She notices a piece of the wall getting dragged down the street by the wind and tells everyone to get back from the windows. Aaron points out they have two problems, a wall down and the windmill is on fire. Rosita volunteers to help defend the house while the others go fix the problems. Barbara approves of Rosita too, because, Barbara is the best character. Rosita hammers in boards, but they're out of boards, so she tells Lydia to use furniture instead. Walkers begin to get through, and Rosita rushes over to hammer in more boards and tells Lydia and Diana to radio Carol that there's another breach and asks Judith to blow out the candles. They wait as the dead surround the house and begin to breach the front door. There's too many, so Rosita grabs her club and says she's going to buy them some time. She rushes out and bashes in multiple walkers' heads one by one. Once dealing with the ones on the porch, taking on the ones on the street. She eventually knocks on the door, coming back, drenched in blood and looking like a badass, calmly telling everyone to stay away from the windows. The dead keep coming and she holds the door shut once more with the oven. Rosita decides that they're going to have to go upstairs and defend the house from the stairs instead, ordering everyone up there. Diana stops Hodoring and Lydia tells Rosita to go, which she does, running for the stairs. They fight the dead through till the morning, where Rosita and Lydia battle them on the stairs. Lydia hits Rosita with her staff and Rosita cries out in pain. And by the way, this actually happened IRL. Cassidy McKinley accidentally hit Christina, so it's pretty funny. Diana then informs them that they can't find Judith or Gracie. Rosita says they have to keep on this, and she keeps killing walkers on the stairs as Lydia goes through a window to help Aaron, Gracie and Judith. Later on, Gabriel returns with everyone else with food from Meridian. Rosita greets Gabriel, noting that they got the food and also embracing him. Eugene and the Commonwealth appear and Rosita listens to both Eugene speak and then Lance Hornsby give his little speech. Between this and the time skip in the next episode, Rosita, Coco and Gabriel all decided to move out of Alexandria and into the Commonwealth. She began to start training to be a Commonwealth Trooper, going to her little cadet class alongside Daryl Dixon. She attends the Halloween party and takes Coco to Ezekiel's petting zoo. Rosita meets with Gabriel, who is taking Coco tonight. He doesn't mind Rosita leaving Coco with him, saying Rosita will be exhausted after her training. Rosita thanks and hands over her baby. Rosita exits from her apartment as Daryl does. He asks if her place got any better and she says no. Rosita expresses she wants basics to be over so she can get a better place and comments that worrying about money again is weird. Mercer talks to Rosita and the new recruits at the Kill House about how he is looking for good teamwork. They are given only one knife and Rosita is teamed up with Green. She jokes with Green as they ready themselves to enter. Rosita sneaks in and is surprised by a walker who she's able to stab. She then hands the knife to Green. Green gets grabbed by a walker and Rosita drags it off him to stab. They then find their target walker. Green goes for it and Rosita gets grabbed by another walker, who she successfully kills by ripping its own leg off and stabbing it with it. Mercer compliments Rosita and Green for their teamwork, but not Daryl. She follows Daryl and Mercer outside the walls with Sebastian. Mercer says she's not needed, but Rosita says she volunteers. Sebastian says it's cool because Rosita is hot. They notice the weapons bag contains their weapons. Sebastian begins sizing them all up. Rosita releases the walkers for Sebastian and watches him get mad when Daryl saves him from a walker. When the ball occurs, Rosita is on security commenting that Sebastian hates Daryl. She watches all the celebs enter, like Mercer and Lance Hornsby. Tyler Davis takes Max hostage and Rosita flanks around him. She watches Tyler be arrested by Sebastian and then taken away on Pamela's orders. Rosita graduates and becomes a Commonwealth Trooper. She helps to raid Tyler's flat. She finds a secret compartment in his closet leading to a room full of anti-Commonwealth symbols and propaganda, and it all seems to disturb her. After Stephanie, aka Shearer, goes missing, Rosita bangs on her door for a welfare check. She opens it up after no answer, but finds no one inside. Outside, she informs Eugene she's not there. Eugene wants to file a missing persons report, and Rosita says sure, inviting him to the station to help him do it. Rosita walks Coco and then later finds Eugene sat by a lake. She places a blanket over Coco and asks Eugene how he is. She talks about the new job and not regretting coming here to the Commonwealth as they're all together and safe. She jests she didn't think she'd be a cop, but she's pretty good at it, and Eugene tells her she's good at everything. She misses the freedom they used to have, but looks forward for Alexandria being fixed up and is excited about the future. Rosita asks Eugene what's wrong, and he reflects on how he lied to her when they first met, and she says that happened long ago. Just forget it, Eugene, it's fine. She forces him to speak on what is on his mind, and Eugene tells her that Stephanie isn't missing, she's left him, broken up with him. Rosita hugs him, saying sorry. Rosita says, screw her, you can do better, and you'll find your person, eventually Eugene. A day or two later, she's at the station and jokes Daryl is living a stereotype as he chows down on some donuts. Rosita takes a piece of the donut. Vickers assigns Daryl and Rosita to a sector, and they both suit up. Daryl embarrasses Sebastian in front of his mates, and as a result, Rosita and Daryl are reassigned to something different. Rosita objects to the troopers who tell her this, but she's told it's fine. They follow these two troopers, Castle and Alvarez, and they follow them to a field where they see a large herd in the distance. Sebastian comes in with a walker, telling Rosita and Daryl they are going to use the gut trick to go through the Horde. Sebastian wants them to get cash for them. Rosita thinks it's a joke, but it's actually not. Rosita tells him to send his lackeys, but he claims the bullets are tracked, so they can't. Daryl objects, and Sebastian threatens them by bringing up kids, including Coco, saying what will happen to Coco. Daryl takes Sebastian by knife point, and Rosita raises her gun, threatening to take Sebastian's head off. Eventually, though, Rosita confirms if this is all they need to do, she agrees to it, eventually sliming herself up with guts. Rosita and Daryl walk through the herd with guts to get to the house. They enter it, and they find fresh blood. They eventually find the alarm system, but it needs power. She kills walkers, noticing that they're freshly turned. They hear a banging from the vault. It's April who informs them the money is with her. Rosita tells her she won't leave her and learns that April is here because she was in debt. Rosita stays with her, or at least behind the door, as Daryl looks for the generator. Eventually, he gets them on, and Rosita unlocks the keypad, entering and hugging April. Daryl tries to get into the safe, but he sets off a large beeping alarm. Rosita tries to stop it, but it just gets worse, so she breaks the alarm pad and stops it. They grab the cash as the walkers come, so they barricade the door. They dress April in walker blood, Rosita giving some of her armor plates to the woman. They hear gunshots, but luckily it's just Mercer and Carol coming to the rescue. Rosita explains why they're here to Mercer, and April gives her explanation to him too. They all gut up, some more, and they start walking out of the house slowly. April gets caught and attacked. Rosita kills some walkers to try and get to her, as well as the others, but April ended up being devoured. A sad Rosita stabs April in the head before returning outside and back towards Castle and Alvarez. They hand the money over, and Rosita watches Mercer kill both Castle and Alvarez in revenge. He instructs them all to still hand the money to Sebastian. Later, she watches a gleeful Sebastian celebrate his cash. Sebastian hands Daryl and Rosita a cut of the money too. Rosita tells Eugene about what happened with the cash heist, and Eugene invites Connie and Kelly around to explain what Sebastian has been doing to try and get his cash. And now, she just can't stay quiet after thinking about April. Rosita declares people need to know the truth. Kelly shows her a list that Connie got, a list of missing people, and they highlight April's name. Rosita looks at the list and says there was way more names on this list than just the people that Sebastian has sent to that house. She says that something bigger is going on here. Rosita joins the protest of the Commonwealth citizens. She listens to Magna and the others contemplate what to do, and Rosita tells them they're not going to do anything until their people get back. Mercer meets with her and asks why she's not in uniform, and she tells him that this is not her problem, and it's not his either. Mercer gets called away, telling Rosita she needs to suit up. Rosita suits up and meets with Mercer, joking she couldn't resist helping. They get in a jeep and head outside the walls to help redirect a swarm of the dead. They scout the swarm out as Mercer directs his troops on what to do. Rosita asks what happened to the outer perimeter. Someone wasn't doing their job, and Rosita comments that seems to happen a lot around here. She notes Mercer is trying his best and has his back. Rosita tells him she's happy to help out here, but back in the Commonwealth, she's not going to help prop up the Miltons, because her daughter and her family come first. Mercer offers her help if she ever wants to leave the Commonwealth. Suddenly, a vehicle is overturned and troopers need help. They drive over there, and Rosita gets on the mounted machine gun and shoots walkers, giving covering fire for the endangered troopers. One of them gets to safety, but the other is grabbed by the dead. Rosita defends the truck as Mercer tries to drag him off the walkers, but it's all for nothing as he's ripped apart and they are forced to drive away. The next day, Rosita and the others decide to leave the Commonwealth and to return to Alexandria. She hands in her work notice. Rosita interrupts Gabriel practicing his final sermon. She comments that it's not going to be his last. She informs him she's packed, and she asks if there's anything else Gabriel wants to grab. Rosita does not feel up for Gabriel's congregation's donated food. Gabriel reflects how he didn't think he'd be a priest again, and Rosita tells him that he's given people of the Commonwealth something. He then jokes he just wished they brought him cotton candy instead of the shitty food that they have. Suddenly they hear a noise in the back. It's Judith sneaking in. They inform Daryl. Although on scene, Eugene and Rosita hung out at the Founders Day fair celebration thing, and Eugene talked about Max, who wants to stay in the Commonwealth to try and change it for the better. After hanging with Eugene, she went to the square and then witnessed the massacre. After this, Rosita is arrested for Eugene's actions. She sees the others have been brought in too. Mercer visits her in an interrogation room and lists off some basic information, asking her to verify it in a very cold manner. She questions if he's serious right now, acting like they're all strangers. Mercer asks about her whereabouts during the Founders Day attack, and she tells him the truth and tells him what her and Eugene talked about. She denies seeing him since. Mercer says that Eugene will come to her eventually, and Rosita says she'll call if she sees him. Mercer tells her that it's best if Eugene hands himself in, otherwise things will get worse for everyone. Rosita then just storms off. She arrives at the church where they're all hiding Eugene. Rosita ponders how they're going to get Eugene out of there, but Daryl has a plan. Eugene refuses to leave without Max, and Rosita agrees to look for Max now. They hear a Milton announcement as she leaves. At night, Rosita does find Max and tries to warn her about incoming troopers, but she's caught and arrested. Rosita watches as Max is dragged away, and she heads to the church to inform Eugene that she's now in custody. Daryl says that they need to get going, but Eugene says he's staying, and Daryl leaves. It's just Rosita and Eugene now, and Eugene tells her he's trying a different path, but Rosita understands he's sad about Max, but if he stays here, they're going to kill him. Eugene loves Max and says he's better with her, and he can't just abandon her. Eugene highlights that Rosita said his person is out there, and that is Max. Eugene asks Rosita to trust him, it's gonna be okay, and he hands over his bolo tie, asking Rosita to give it to Coco. Rosita accepts it and hugs Eugene, tears in her eyes, eventually leaving him to go hand himself in. She packs up and looks at the tie once more, self-reflecting. She hears a door open, assuming it's her friends, and suddenly two men attack her. She kicks one and frees herself of the other one's grip. She punches and fights, but one grabs her in a bear lock and the other puts a hood over her head. She's then drugged and taken away. At night time, a drugged Rosita is in the back of a truck when Maggie awakes Gabriel, who then wakes up Rosita, telling her to shush because of the sleeping trooper. Rosita jumps out of the truck with Gabriel but falls unconscious again. She wakes up to find a walker trooper trying to eat her and is saved by Gabriel from it. Gabe distracts it when Rosita kills it. She asks Gabriel if he's okay and hears Commonwealth Troopers report on the radio. Rosita and Gabriel flee into the woods. She takes a left, wanting to follow the convoy, but Gabe points out there's too many of those troopers to fight. Rosita just wants to see her daughter, asking if he has a better idea. And she wants to split up to cover more ground, but Gabriel refuses and says he'll just go with her already, okay? Fine, we'll do it. Rosita is almost grabbed by a walker and Gabriel saves her from it, and she's suffering from the beating she received and the fact she jumped out of a truck, and she's got a dislocated arm. She gets Gabriel to pull her arm back into place, showing him how to do it, and then screaming in pain when he does. Gabriel tells her to rest and stop torturing herself, reminding her of her motto, quit bitching and move forward. With that, they take rest, but soon they hear a train, so Rosita doesn't rest and goes after the choo-choo. They eventually find Maggie, Carol, and Daryl, hugging them. Daryl wants to go after the train to get Connie, but Rosita points out it will give their advantage away to get the kids. As the others take over the train, Rosita and Gabriel stop Trooper 301 at gunpoint, disarming her. One of them then kills this trooper off-screen. They take the train by force and kidnap Wilson, the train driver. Wilson says the warden will punish him and he has a family. Rosita points out they have a family too. All their kids have been taken from them. Wilson tells them about a map, and later she watches Wilson kill himself. They discuss how to find Kelly and the others, and Rosita suggests using the long radio in the train to get info. At night, using the radio, Rosita pretends to be Trooper 301 and lies, saying she's trapped in the woods and needs help as she's the last one left. The trooper over the radio gives her directions to Outpost 22. It turns out to just be none other than Alexandria. Rosita thanks the trooper and hears Maggie plot to take back Alexandria and to show Pamela they've been messing with the wrong people. Carol and Daryl report about seeing a labour camp just outside of Alexandria, and Rosita asks if the kids were there. Rosita wants to go in to Alexandria, but there's too many guards. She wants to go with Daryl and Connie when they are going to be heading through the sewers to infiltrate Alexandria, but Carol tells her she needs to stay out here to keep guard. She adds they can radio if something goes wrong. Rosita agrees as long as it's less than a night. When Alexandria begins to be liberated by the others, Rosita rushes in to the community and looks through all the houses trying to locate Coco, but is unable to find her anywhere. She asks Carol if they've found Coco, and no one knows where the baby is. Rosita stops Negan from killing the injured warden and asks the warden where her daughter is. The warden doesn't answer, and Rosita punches him and grabs a Walker Trooper, holding it above the man, asking him again where her daughter is. The warden just says she'll lose everything, so Rosita sets the Walker to chow down on the warden's face, and she watches on as it does so. Rosita collects her weapon from a crate. She overlooks the bodies of the warden and the troopers, and then hears Tyler telling Gabriel that they keep the kids in the city, and he goes to find out if they're able to locate exactly where in the city the kids might be. Rosita boards the bus and tells everyone to hurry up. They board the train eventually and head to the Commonwealth. Rosita points at a map and goes over the plan to save Coco. Gabriel is confident they'll get her back. Rosita thanks him for being here. She hears Princess contact Mercer, who gives them directions on where they can go once they arrive. They scout out the troops and the area of the outer perimeter of the Commonwealth, trying to obviously get through a tunnel, seeing that there are only 4 guards guarding the tunnel, but Rosita points out they'll be on a ticking clock if they take out those guards. But suddenly, all the guards are redirected, and the coast is clear, so they sneak into the city through the railway tunnels. They walk on through until they are led to a station, which is empty and boarded up. Suddenly, they're all shot at. Gabriel fires as Rosita tries to get the doors open. She can't, so she continues to shoot. Rosita is shocked when she watches Judith get shot. They eventually escape after Daryl shoots a fire hydrant, and I guess they get one of the doors open. Rosita runs down the street with the others to the hospital. However, the troopers begin sealing them in. Rosita with the others notices the walkers flood in, and one in particular has the ability to climb. Luke and Jules run out of the herd and join the group, and they all rush to an alleyway, clearing a path for Daryl and Judith and fighting the dead. Rosita with the others battles the dead and watches Jules die, and Luke gets bitten. Carol clears a path and they are able to escape. Rosita, Gabriel and a reunited Eugene head to the children's home in the city to find it's been overrun by the dead. Rosita for a second thinks that Coco is dead, but hears her screams and rushes to her. The cribs have been overturned and the babies are all trapped underneath the crib, luckily. So Rosita is grabbed as she runs to get to her baby, and she kills the walker that grabs her. Then she just goes absolutely apeshit on the rest of the walkers in the room, killing them in a pretty badass way, and she reunites with her daughter. Also, there is Nabila and Jerry's baby and Adam Sutton. Gabriel heads inside and smiles at Rosita as the mother and daughter are reunited. Off screen, they find an ambulance and they use that to try and meet up with the others, but unfortunately they get cut off by walkers and they're trapped. Rosita radios Carol telling her where they are and that their ride is fucked. They eventually bust out of the ambulance and kill the dead. They get back to back as they fight all the walkers individually together. Rosita looks for a way out and she kills a walker, but she gets grabbed and is saved by Gabriel. Rosita tells Eugene to go for the pipe first. She does briefly get grabbed by another walker, which gets her ankle, but she's able to kill it. And Gabriel then follows Eugene as he goes up the pipe, and then Rosita follows her man. She struggles to unfortunately get up the pipe though, reaching her hand out to the others to try and grab it, and suddenly she's just unable to hold on. But this happens to Rosita. Devoured by walkers. R.I.P. Rosita Esper. Oh wait! Rosita fights her way out like a badass and climbs onto the ambulance. She then jumps from the ambulance to the pipe and climbs up, now safe and sound. However, some point after this, Rosita discovered that she was in fact bitten on the shoulder when she fell. Rosita holds up in a house, spending time just sort of staring and stroking her daughter Coco. Eugene heads over to talk to her, volunteering to take over baby care. Rosita wants to just soak her up and refuses his help. Eugene talks about the upcoming summer and the benefits of teaching infants to swim, commenting that Coco will inherit her confidence. Eugene is excited for the summer and asks Rosita if she is too. Eugene then clocks on that she was probably bitten and asks where and if it's treatable. Rosita reveals her bite on her shoulder. Eugene begins to whimper and Rosita tells him to stop and to pull his shit together because she doesn't want everyone else to know yet. He says he can't, but she says he can because she's still there. She tells him he's going to be fine without her, and he tells her he loves her, and she says she loves him too. Eugene kisses her on the forehead and goes back to Max, whilst Rosita spends more time with Coco. Milton is eventually overthrown, and the Horde is blown up, and all is well again. And in the morning, Rosita enjoys the celebrations with Coco, laughing, joking, and eating with the others in the group. She sits on her own, watching everyone be happy, and is joined by Gabriel. He asks if everything is okay, and Rosita proclaims it's perfect and wants to remember this moment. Gabriel senses something is off, and Rosita whispers to him about her bite. She holds his hand, and he holds hers as he takes it in, and she keeps a happy face on her, although she can't resist crying. Later, everyone else is informed about Rosita's bite, and she is helped to the bed by Carol and Maggie. Coco is waiting for her on the bed. She hugs both women and she lays down next to her daughter. Gabriel comes to her and says a prayer for her. As he does, Rosita brushes Coco's hair. Gabriel then takes Coco as Rosita kisses her goodbye, telling Rosita they'll see her again one day. Daryl gives her a goodbye nod, as finally Eugene comes to visit her. Eugene lets her know he wouldn't be the man he is today if it wasn't for her. She tells him she was glad it was him in the end, highlighting he's the last survivor of Abe's group. With these final words, Rosita closes her eyes for good and passes away from the infection. Off screen, Eugene prevented Rosita from reanimating into a zombie. Rosita is then buried within the Commonwealth. A plaque was put up with her name on it to honour her. R.I.P. Rosita Espinosa. Okay, wow. Okay, so this is the longest character profile I've ever done. Never thought I would do a 2-hour one, but hey ho. And it's honestly just because Rosita is the largest character death we've ever had. She's actually in 75% of the series. She started as a much smaller character with a very minor role in the series, but post Abraham's death, she really picked up as a character in her own right. She could be cruel, she could be erratic and ruthless, but she also had a heart, and she had love and deep respect for her friends. Rosita survived her comic counterpart's death, and was fleshed into a much more worthwhile character in my opinion, and her relationships were given a lot more depth and complexity. She exited the world leaving behind her child to one day carry on her legacy and also her best friend Eugene to ensure that legacy will be met. Overall, Rosita may not be in my top 10 characters, but she's a great character, and honestly, whilst making this video, I've gained a lot more respect for how the character has evolved and how she was written. But I'm glad that the actress actually asked for Rosita to be killed, because without her death I think the finale would definitely suffer, as I already felt it was a little bit lackluster. She is the final big death of the show, and I think she deserved to take that role. R.I.P. Rosita Espinosa, you'll be missed. So, thanks for watching. If you're wondering what's next, well, I'm going to be having another little break before starting the next one. And don't worry, it won't be another 2 years. Plus, the next one will be a lot smaller, so that will be easier. But yes, this series is back. Alright, you're welcome. Anyway, thanks for watching. Goodbye.